Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's my guy, DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, here on the Pillar Exterior stage. DB, what's up?
How we doing? How are things?
We're back home.
Yeah, I don't love my audio right now, so that's going to be a thing that I'm probably going to have to deal with. But
we're back.
Yeah, I've never, well, that might be an extreme. I was going to say I've never been so happy to be here, but I'm pretty happy. And it's funny too, because as we were kind of crying and complaining to one another, Shane was like, it wasn't too bad. I mean, we got it to sound pretty good. I had a headache. I wasn't sticking around here with all that stuff going on. And I was like, yeah.
Shane was
at 10 o'clock, man. I was talking to myself. You weren't on the other end.
Wasn't even 10 o'clock. It was 9:56.
I'm like, where did he go?
The second the show was over, that dude was like,
hey, were you just beside yourself?
Kool-Aid man out the door.
I wasn't. I mean, there was like a lot of people here, so I wasn't beside myself.
No, he didn't say by yourself. He said beside yourself.
And we felt so. We joked during some of the breaks. We were like, I mean, between worrying about whether we had a hot mic or not, but we're like, man, poor Shane is probably just miserable over there.
Yeah.
Right? Guy that just likes to kind of mind his own business and do his work. And did you feel surrounded?
I'm too exhausted from being amazing yesterday.
He's out here. People are doing laser shows and stuff. He's just trying to run a nice little radio program.
I had a headache.
Yeah, but we got
That's a lot going on.
I'm excited.
We got series. We got 3-2-0s in hockey.
It's exciting.
Don't bury the lead, DB.
Pels or
don't bury it.
The struggling. I don't know
what else we got going on.
What would be the lead? Is it Kevin Costner Day?
It's Kevin Costner Day, baby.
It is Kevin Costner.
Not Field of Dreams. No. His best sports film, Draft Day.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Certainly not going to ride on that Costner train, but
maybe his best overall. I'm just kidding.
It wasn't even better than For the Love of the Game, and that was I liked it. A lot of other people did.
I love For Love of the Game. I also love Draft Day. It is not.
You like those unrealistic conversations?
It is not objectively a good movie, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'll ride with it.
Hey, Ravi, I'll give you 2 number ones for a 6.
I don't know if I can do that.
Well, I don't know.
I'll take it.
We got Brady with a 6. I don't know if we can give up 2 number ones for Brady.
Tell him you need to make it happen. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I'll throw in a punt returner.
At what point, I know you'll go from like pre-countdown to whatever, but when will you just be dialed for this thing to get dicey? Is it pick 3?
I think pick 2. I'm not convinced we know who's going at 2.
Why? Just because it's the Commanders?
Well, no, because I think there's some debate still whether it's going to be Daniels or May.
Yeah.
And then depending on who they take, I think really dictates what happens in like 3 through 5.
Hey, you want a hot take?
I do. Always.
I'm not willing to give up the luncheon, which, by the way, I need to collect on.
Whatever. I'm here. Much like Dion, not hard to find. Although, unlike his players, not hard to find.
Well, he's progressively getting worse too.
I see. I was early.
Wait, no, he was trending in the wrong direction
for a while.
He's like tripling down on the
They're like, hey, we good.
IDAGF. Is that I don't care about.
I
much.
don't give a flipper.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Like the dolphin.
I couldn't say the letters in correct order that fast. But I would not. I'm going to say this out loud.
Yeah.
The more I'm thinking about this, and remember, I was the guy that how many weeks ago was like, I can't wait until the Patriots because they could screw the whole thing up, right? And people talk about San Diego and Minnesota, and I get that. Like, San Diego could come back, and Harbaugh is going to show everybody how smart he is and put his fingerprints on this underachieving franchise. You may not get, would not shock me at all if you don't get 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 10 picks.
Oh, I think you're going to get 4 taken in
you
the
may
first.
Not. You may not.
Oh, you may not?
Yes.
Oh.
It's my hot
So
take.
you think JJ may drop?
Man, so
I don't think he's gonna drop.
I don't believe it's ever happened. 4 quarterbacks in the first 10 picks.
Ooh,
I'm pretty sure.
we've definitely had 3
Okay.
a bunch of times.
So would
But-
McCarthy be the guy to break that trend?
I think people are enamored with his makeup.
No, I remember. Hey, so in whenever I came back, February,
Mhm.
I'm kind of on the McCarthy train, but I was cheering for him more because he was a winner, not because I thought he was Marino.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not gonna malign McCarthy, right? If somebody wants to make that move, but the more I'm thinking about this, I don't know, man. You'd be Bucky. This would be historical.
It would. Here's the difference though, is there are multiple teams. So even let's say the Giants don't want McCarthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's say they settle on like Neighbors.
Yeah, let's say they go wide receiver, or they're like, we'll kick it down the road.
You know how the draft's gone too long?
Why?
Now is Marvin Harrison Jr. the best receiver in the draft?
Well,
I mean, 2 months ago he had like one of the most prolific grades since Calvin Johnson. Now
they're like, maybe Neighbors is better.
Now I know one thing.
Your guy Severe thinks Neighbors is going first.
If I was
better.
If I was a DB,
yeah,
I'd much rather see Marvin Harrison Jr. than Neighbors.
Why is that?
Just because what I think they can do to me. You know,
in what sense?
Just the ability. Who's more dangerous with the ball in their hands? So here's the thing. You see Harrison make a lot of spectacular catches, right? Really good in traffic, and they're already chunk plays. Man, Neighbors
turns them into chunk
man.
plays.
Listen, he'll get the baton and
so he's a little more
and do something bad. Now that's not to say Harrison can't run because he's obviously getting vertical.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about
like a make guys miss.
Listen, if I have to try to cover a guy and I can't cover either one of them, let's make that perfectly clear. But if I'm going to take an 8-yard hitch or a little choice route or stick route, I'd much rather see Harrison than Neighbors
because Neighbors might turn 8 into 80.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but he gives me the vibes that he likes competing more.
Neighbors?
Yes.
Interesting.
Well, what is it about Harrison? And I'm not this wasn't supposed to turn into
Harrison bashing.
Yeah, because it's not.
Right.
Like he's obviously elite. I'm just like, what is it about Harrison Jr.'s personality that leads you to believe he loves what he's doing?
I'll be honest. I know almost nothing about Harrison's personality.
He doesn't give you much. He didn't want to work out. He didn't like. At some point, your competitiveness kicks in. If I'm talking about a couple of guys from LSU again, man, or what? Let me show you how we do it here at
especially
in Columbus.
There is a little bit of Ohio State receivers versus LSU.
How many times you gonna let a Dunze come out of somebody's mouth before you want to put your foot down? You got Brian Thomas now coming up. You've got Neighbors. I'm like, you don't want to do anything? Well, it could only go down. I mean, come on, man. Like, let's ride.
Yeah, I mean,
not Russell.
Not like Broncos country. I mean, he's your guy now.
That's Let's Forge. Okay, it's changed. He's gonna need you to cut that out.
No, you know what he's gonna turn it into, like Forge Ahead.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Khan does, because he's and not Kubla, but more like Wrath of. Remember that?
Shaka?
No.
David?
No.
You remember David Kahn?
I do. I'm going with Wrath of Khan because I was traumatized as a youngin' to see some little electric-looking slug go in somebody's ear.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Hey,
right? Like I'll never forget. Isn't it? That is firmly.
Oh yeah,
entrenched. Like
it's so bad to see it nowadays, but yeah, I mean,
yeah, it doesn't even look. Well, I watched The Terminator the other day, and I couldn't believe I sat through that thing. When he changed his eye in the sink, he looked like something I'd see at Target modeling like those Malibu shirts. I know that's a mannequin. Like, what the world? I don't even know why I went there, but I literally just thought, I was like, who was falling for this back then? The same people that were falling for Jaws?
Probably.
Man.
Well, maybe.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't
Go
know.
back and look at that scene where he put his eye back in the sink.
Speaking of JJ McCarthy, he's on our little TV right now.
Now, he is a fantastic interview.
Yeah, I think people kind of are. He's sort of the skills over or makeup over skills guy or makeup over production.
No,
And that's not to
don't
say he's
make
not-
it seem like he's a bum because
he's not Tebow, but he's
Some people kind of question.
he's super talented.
One thing I don't do, I don't question his arm strength.
No, I think the question with him is frame. We talked about how
talk to God when I need a favor.
DB's on a jelly roll this morning. The
Butterfly, that's old.
which is ironic.
Is it Tootsie or Jelly?
You don't even eat either of those, jelly or Tootsie
No,
Rolls.
I don't like any of the ooey gooey in a
The
pastry.
donuts?
No,
I'll mess around with like a lemon filled.
no way.
Yeah,
But I do like a good, Hostess pie.
a pie.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's different.
A little different.
Yeah.
A little different. You got
But most of it is because if I'm eating something in that, is genre the correct term? If I'm eating something in that
food category.
genus, that species,
Yeah.
that
Going all scientific on me here.
it's way down the list.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm going cinnamon roll. I'm going apple fritter. I'm going,
My dad's an apple fritter guy.
Blueberry flake guy.
My dad will mess
Like
around
that-
with some apple fritters.
It's not that kind of donut is. It's just so far down the list. It's kind of how I feel about if I'm going to eat a potato. Fries are so far down the list. I don't even get to them.
Oh, see, that's how I feel about mashed potatoes.
Dude, good mashed potatoes are elite.
They are really good, but most
Elite.
people only make pretty good mashed potatoes. And a pretty because listen, my wife will make like these cheesy garlic mashed potatoes that'll blow your mind, right? But she'll make them for like holidays or whatever. So but most people, their mashed potatoes are only okay.
Yeah, I'm still not going through.
But like I know if I mess, like I'm gonna go like an au gratin potato. I love au gratin potatoes.
Au gratin,
Yeah, like a
like AUGRATIN.
au gratin.
Au gratin.
I used to think it was like
The thing that you put in the ice when you ice fish.
No, that's a
Auger.
auger. Yeah. No, when I was a kid, I thought it was like on rotten potatoes, and I was like, I don't know if they're rotten or not, but they sure taste pretty good.
They got a pickle.
And then I'll do like a,
How'd we get here? So if I was gonna have a carb like, and believe me, like last night I was really struggling.
Yeah.
Like
on the struggle bus.
Yeah, it was the first time I could just openly remember just being like
craving,
really hungry. Like
Yeah.
I didn't, sleep was tough.
Yeah.
But that I still wouldn't go to a potato. I would go to cheesy grits.
Big cheesy grits guy.
Big grits guy. They don't even have to be cheesy.
Yeah. No.
Yep.
I went someplace the other day. I had like a shrimp and grits for breakfast.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It was real good.
Yeah, I'm particular about my shrimp though.
I'll mess around with that a little bit.
Don't give me the little, like if they come out looking more orange or more white, then they have a good sear or a good curl or bend. You can miss me with that.
Yeah, I'm also
I'm all the way out.
You overcook them; they get a little rubbery.
Oh yeah,
you got to make sure. Like I'm not trying to mess around with that.
Yeah, I got my my Gordon Ramsay. He gave me the shape that I want on my shrimp when it hits the sear.
Okay.
You have two choices. You either want the C. I can't remember the other letter. What you don't want is the
curled up type.
The curl jab.
Yeah, you don't want it because it's overdone. It's starting to die.
Yeah,
well, I mean it's already dead, but you know what I mean.
A lot of cooking tricks. Now.
That thing wet.
I don't put any tallow or animal fat in the pot until it's hot now.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time on cooking TikTok.
I know,
like a lot of time.
So Caleb last night or yesterday, he kind of just moseyed on in because I thought he was going to go straight to his other workout. But he came home. I'm sitting at the table, and this dude had nerve enough to ask me what I'm going to do if they get rid of TikTok. I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" He looked at me. I got Instagram.
I was gonna say we just live on Instagram Reels, baby.
Yeah, go ahead.
Got him.
I just need my man Elon Musty to the scent of your musk.
Don't make it weird, DB.
To
don't make it weird.
Bring back Vines, and I'm fine.
You did love Vines. You're a big Vines guy.
Yep.
Like
it's my favorite.
That's fine.
It's freaking bats.
It is, and she was sensational.
Hello, friend.
So I just hope that the Patriots. I hope they just do something crazy.
I think it depends on who gets taken. Well, and so yesterday, all of a sudden, you've got people talking about Minnesota maybe moving up to 2.
I told you what Minnesota needs to do, and they won't do it.
You just want them to trade for Kyler Murray.
I do.
Yeah, they're probably not going to do that.
I want to see Kyler Murray with their head coach.
Yeah?
Yeah, Kyler Murray is one of those guys I low-key cheer for because I think people hate on him for no reason because he comes across like he doesn't really love what he's doing.
Yeah, he doesn't really care that much.
And I think it has more to do with his frame, and he wears weird stuff, but
I think it also has, honestly,
they're like, how committed is he?
the contract detail leaks didn't do him any favors.
No.
With the
And he was early. He was
video games.
He was a little premature. People question his study habits and his aptitude.
Yeah.
So I quietly.
Well, he's got the baseball thing too. So people are like,
And
how
I'm
much
just-
does he love the game?
I'm just telling you, like I take
You
it.
just like the 2-sport athlete.
No. So let me tell you what it is.
All right.
This is.
All right.
This is. Am I gonna? Is it spelling T? I need to Google how that became a thing. Like, what's the derivation of that? Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
Um.
It's not Latin, so I'm not familiar.
So
I don't know.
I've become a guy over time that is bitterly and overly defensive anytime minority quarterbacks' aptitude is questioned.
Okay.
Because it was such a stigma for so long.
Forever. Yeah.
So
Handle the position.
anytime
yeah.
that's kind of a thing, I'm like the defense secretary.
So
just
for-
hit me up, I'll rally.
So for me, the Kyler Murray thing isn't an aptitude; it's a work ethic thing,
Yeah.
which is
So
it's a different thing.
So like if he was like super fit and even if he was tall, not is it his like
No.
what makes you think he's not committed?
Honestly, the only thing I didn't have a problem with Kyler Murray ever until the contract details leaked out about the video game stuff, and I was like, why would they feel the need to put that in the
Yeah,
contract?
but here's the deal though.
That's really been my only hang up.
Here's the deal. I think a lot of coaches would have social life. We had guys whether they could go get on a boat or not. I mean,
Yeah.
in baseball, hey, listen, man, you can't go get on your jet skis. Hey, you can't go do X, Y, and Z. Like,
Right, but so the jet skis and stuff are physical danger issues, right? You have an accident, that's early. You have an-
he kept hearing us talk about premature.
Hey now.
That's
Mom, get my nuts. Get my nuts.
Stop it, Shane.
Talking about being a little early,
The
like that bed music.
that's one of
no
the
pun intended.
that I'm just gonna keep on moving here. I'm gonna keep on jelly rolling through this segment.
I only talk to God when I need a
The-
favor.
There's most of the stipulations in contract are non-football injury issues, right?
Maybe.
They're jet skis because they're dangerous, quote unquote, however the GM feels about it. A lot of guys aren't allowed to play like basketball in their contract, whatever. But the reason the video game thing stuck out to me is because A, not dangerous generally to your physical health. B, the fact that they felt the need to include
I
it.
think it's anything that can be distracting. I mean, did you ever think massages
think
would be
it's-
in a contract?
Well, when they become
No, keep it 100.
when
I'm
they
just
become a legal issue, but no, like before that, no, I wouldn't think it would be an issue. But again, there's a specific reason the massages were put in the contract, not just hey, massages can be distracting. Let's put that in the contract, right? For Kyler Murray, my concern is, was there a specific issue that led to it being included in the contract?
Yeah. So I missed a good portion of you and apostrophe,
Mhm.
and I'll get to see him tonight. So I appreciate him filling in
Mhm.
for moi. I'm gonna do him a solid for Let It Fly tonight.
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna have to. Since I don't make any money, I'm gonna have to get a meal out of that. So don't think I didn't look at the menu last night. He's gonna have to travel well because I'm not eating there because the draft will be on. He's cutting into some valuable time.
Got to get into there.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you're getting me for this amount of time,
And
and your boy will hit the little push thing on his vehicle, and I'm heading back to the motherland.
in the eject button.
Man, I just am. And so, but the thing about it is when you're looking at if okay, so the Commanders are kind of weird,
Mhm.
right? Maybe it's Daniels, maybe it's me. I didn't hear what Severe said about Daniels, like specifically.
Mhm.
I got out of the car when you guys. you had even Caleb trying to guess. It was pretty cool with the quarterback comps where you gave the
Oh,
stats
yeah.
and said, "Hey, would you take such and such?" So that's about when I had to get out of the car because the signal is magnificent. I was like, "Let's go."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're border to border.
Man, listen, I had that bad boy on until we parked.
You anywhere in the state, you can hear us.
And so, what are his thoughts on Daniels physically?
So physically, he does think he's slight. He doesn't mind his shoulders as much.
He's
that's a big shoulders guy.
Do you know what he means?
Yeah, like the breadth and
So these
slope of his shoulders
versus these.
Yes, he doesn't like slope shoulders
Yeah.
guys. He said he doesn't mind his shoulders. He just doesn't know how much weight he can carry. The other thing he was concerned about with Daniels was no quarterback that they've ever charted in college has thrown less when they've left the pocket. Like when that dude,
that's a good stat.
He's going.
Yeah, he's not leaving the pocket to throw. He's leaving to hit the X button.
He texted me later that day, and I think I don't know if it was in the season or in his career. I think it was season.
Give me the number and I'll tell you.
He only threw 5 times when he left the pocket.
Yeah, I think that was this year,
which is crazy because he left the pocket all the time.
Yeah.
Which he's a great runner, but he's got a little too much, and this is an extreme example. He's got a little too much RG3 frame for me to feel good about him running that much.
This is particular, but I think anecdotally, I think it would hold up. I'm not a big fan of little leg guys.
Yeah, I think you get banged up.
So, it gives me the willies. This is the first thing I'm at a middle school track meet and I'm looking at hurdlers' legs, right? Like those are the first things
that you notice
that I kind of notice when I look at either trying to gauge frame or how sturdy you are. So, that pick 3 is like when I'm gonna be like maybe get the popcorn. Not so much. I get it with 2. Is it May or Daniels? I want to know what the Patriots do.
I think pick 2 sets up future chaos because I doubt that the Patriots are just like, oh, we're cool with either. I bet there's a guy
they need a lot, though.
We'll get into more here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. As DB mentioned in the last segment, you can catch us over the airs from one corner of the state to the other. We got you covered.
It's pretty fantastic.
From border to border, whether you're, you could probably even catch us in Council Bluffs if you really wanted to. I think you could probably manage that.
I like Council Bluffs. It's fine.
We've got the strongest signals in the state. Just no big deal. Just we got you covered here.
I got a nice little quaint spot to eat at 712.
Yeah?
Yeah.
7:12 p.m. tonight?
Just like the area code.
Oh, that's 712.
Yep.
Okay. You confused me with the 12.
Well, sometimes I say 612 too, and people don't remember. I'm talking about 7 foot. I don't know. It suits my mind better.
That's fine. Usually when I hear area codes, I think of like number.
I think a pit bull.
I think a 305 to infinity. Set the world on
Wait,
fire.
What's he talking about?
That's too many.
What's he talking about?
That's too many. That's not an area code.
Who? Hey, is that McGuire?
That one is, yeah, I think.
Shane.
We have Troy. We have McGuire.
God, they sound like the same person.
One of them sounds like the other one's kid.
No.
Yeah. McGuire's voice is higher than Dannon's.
So those two things don't sound alike?
Do it again, Shane. Yeah, one of them sounds significantly younger.
Yeah, because No. Yeah. That's how your brain works. You were fed some information, so therefore you're looking for confirmation.
Coming up on the show today,
don't try to Tim Johnson me.
Coming up on the show today, we got Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. We love talking to Cynthia. She's a big draft nerd like we are, so we're excited to talk to her.
Nothing would please me more.
Can I do the lineup, Shane? Is that okay?
Hey, how about my man, just the hatchet man?
Who?
Trev.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he got busy.
We got Brian Edwards at 8:40.
We simply can't do that at this
Dear
time.
God, can I get the lineup out?
Keep doing it, Shane. This dude cannot keep his composure.
How
First time that curveball doesn't get over the plate, he's dumb trying to throw it.
How many guests we got
That's fine.
coming
If
up?
you want to do the lineup, that's fine.
How many guests we got coming up
You're
today?
such a
4,
baby.
6, 8, 12.
You're going to have to get over that.
You want to do the lineup? That's fine.
You're going to have to really get over that.
No, you can do it. It's all right.
I can't. Listen, I can't read.
Something.
8:45, Brian Edwards. I was waiting for a drop, Shane. You good?
I'll get after it.
Thank you.
I'll get after it pretty quickly.
Michael Bruntz at 9 a.m. That's the lineup.
Feel better now?
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Man.
I'm just sitting here and hem and haw. Like nothing comes to the top of my mind.
Do you need a sedative?
I've got plenty.
I only. Is that right? Let's talk.
Legally prescribed.
I just realized, I can't believe I just realized yesterday that you can't, that what I was talking about is frowned upon.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. Cam was like, yeah.
Certainly don't talk about it.
How about, so Shane, I got to say this before we get back to sports. Did you know that Cam has that kind of snark in him?
I want you to be proud.
You don't see it a ton. Like he's just really good natured.
Mm-hmm.
And Cam got me a couple of times. Well, first time he was mad at me.
He was mad at you.
But I didn't realize that everybody else was in his ear either.
Too, yeah.
Yeah. And he was cool. He's like, hey, man, I'm getting it from all sides, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, that's fine. But then I didn't know. Ravi said something like, something about sharing prescriptions. And I go, dang, I didn't know that. So, like, I was immediately in my head. I was like, is it within family? Is it friend to friend? Is it whatever? And Cam goes, yeah, that was probably about bullet point number 5 in my 5th grade DARE program or something like that. I was like, oh, have I not known that long? I feel like that was a shot. Should I have known that?
Do they still do the DARE thing at the spring games?
Oh, no, but who remembers what they learned in the DARE program?
We will embrace
I'm 50.
Certainly not me.
And why would they talk about prescriptions?
I don't know. But what they did talk
Selfish.
about in DARE was how often people were going to offer us free drugs.
Yeah.
And that has never happened.
Not for free. Huh?
Not a single time.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I'd be like fighting people off around every corner. Be like, no, I don't want your free drugs. You know who's never offered me free drugs? Anyone in the world.
Interesting.
Everybody.
So it always comes with a cost.
That's right.
Might be your health.
Also money.
Yeah, there's that too.
I'm only willing to sacrifice one of those.
Well, free doesn't cost anything.
And knowing you, you'd probably take your health.
100%. Here for a good time, not a long time.
I really got to be careful on what I say about that.
Oh,
I've been a type 1 diabetic for 30 years. Like, you're basically just you're gaining you're not gaining an asset there. You're gaining a liability if you take my health.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy last night on social media who's type 1.
Yeah.
And we were talking about his like limited diet.
Yeah.
Have you had a ton of restrictions? You seem like you eat what the heck you want to.
So,
since this is a sports show.
Yeah, no, whatever, it's cool. At different
We were
times,
talking about Kyler Murray's fitness. Maybe you can weave it in.
At different times in my life, I've done like really restrictive diets and whatever, and for whatever reason, my body really just does not act any differently. Like, I've gone full like gluten-free, no carb for months on end.
Yeah.
I've gone like high protein. I've done paleo. I've done the clean. What is it? The Whole30 where you like don't eat any processed. I've done all of it.
Yeah.
And my body's just like, nope, we're doing the same thing no matter what. The blood sugars do not change.
Interesting.
And so at that point, it's like, well, why am I going to torture myself if there's no desired results?
I should have done a better job with the DARE program.
What do you mean?
Because maybe like are you predisposed? Is that a thing?
What, to type 1?
Yeah.
No.
So it's just
they have no idea what causes type 1. Type 2 is predisposed. There's a genetic component. There's a lifestyle component. They have no idea what causes. It's an autoimmune disease, so your body just attacks itself.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It started over just a simple food question.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I mean, if this was a food show, it'd be different.
Well, I got some hate yesterday because we're in a different setup, right? And so our camera's in a different spot.
Yeah.
And so I have my food, my breakfast bag out, and you can see it on camera yesterday where you can't see it.
Who was mad?
Like everybody on the sports team.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, we're just getting out free endorsements now, Ravi. I almost texted him till I'm taking it off the table. And I was like, I'm just trying to do a radio show in less than ideal circumstances. Let me have my breakfast. Okay.
Yeah.
I got Shane over here playing drop, so I can't get through a lineup.
Oh, come on, Shane.
I got DB yelling at me because I can't figure out how to get off the 3rd floor of our building. And I'm just trying.
I just don't understand that.
I can't.
I'm dumb about a lot of
that
things.
Place
but,
is that place is
but
amazing.
I was pretty put off.
I understood. I get it.
I'm like, where are you coming from, China?
I have no idea how to get out. It takes me so long to get out of that building.
My man shorts that option. He's a comedian. again, see, social media is weird. He's probably somebody that I've met, and I have no idea it's him.
Well, that's what happened yesterday, right? In the
And
YouTube comments?
Yeah.
Like Isaiah?
Yeah.
It's like a reasonably common name.
I've talked to him because I don't just do football with. I mean, sometimes if you're talking to a guy that's
like
or gal that's going to understand.
Yeah.
I've talked to him for double-digit years.
Yeah.
And I don't. Now he may not. That's why I'm always at a disadvantage, right? Because people know,
more people know you than you know them.
But I've talked to him for, I mean, since mid-2000s maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we've
ever met.
I'm sure
you probably met, but you probably don't know him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did you read his?
No, I don't think I've seen him.
It is only to me. That's one of the great. This is terrible radio, but I want to just show
it's a meme. Oh no, it went away.
Oh man, did I fat finger that thing?
Yeah, you might.
Yeah, I just think that the look on that guy's face is funny.
Let me see him again, because I'm pretty sure that dude's Indian. Just looking at the way he's making a face. Yeah, that's an Indian guy.
Think he's at cricket?
Come on now.
I think he is.
No,
I'm dead serious.
No, he's not at a cricket match. Actually, he might be. Look at that. Look at the
gear.
Look at the scarf behind him.
Is that a sporting event?
He's just wearing a rich guy vest. What do you mean the gear?
Behind, man, deductive reasoning.
No, that's actually he might be Middle Eastern. It looks like a Saudi.
I bet I'm right. I bet I'm right though.
I don't know. We're just looking at pictures on Twitter. This is terrific radio. By the way.
It's fantastic, especially when you have to get into.
We got a lot to get into. Coming up next, since we aren't going to have time to get anything in this segment, we are going to get into.
Yeah, we're here to entertain.
Are you not entertained?
If you want sports data, listen to guys that only read headlines and don't go to anything.
Yeah, it's a really entertaining thing to just listen to guys read box scores on the radio. It's fine.
Talk to guy when I need.
It's just listening to a show.
Who do you want your Niners to take
in the first hour?
Who do you want your Niners to take?
Already 8 times better.
Who do you want your Niners to take?
I can't really decide yet. I think they might trade up for a wide receiver and
Nah, don't do it.
I'm not saying I want him to, but I think they might deal Ayuk and trade up for a receiver.
Well, if he goes to the Steelers, that's cool. But I think I'd rather maybe have Cortland Sutton. I want a guy with a little bit bigger catch radius. I already got a little burner on the other side.
I would really love to get Keon Coleman.
So I
love him.
He's a weird guy to get into for to dominate time, but he is an interesting case study.
We can get into it later. It's draft day. We're going to get into a lot of stuff. Coming up next, though, we're going to get back into our positional breakdowns.
Let's do it.
Because football. Nebraska
spring game,
in
baby.
A couple days. More Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We're here on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube at the Pillar Exterior Stage. Why? What's up?
I'm just getting chastised.
By who?
Well, because I don't want to get too sidetracked with this, but
that would be
my mother-in-law is type 1.
Okay, yeah.
Which you and I were talking about type 2, but type 1 was.
I was talking about type 1.
Well, the catalyst for me being inquisitive was because I don't really have the. I could ask her about it, but it's just kind of uncomfortable.
You can ask me
because it's hard to. It sometimes looks like it's hard for her to manage, so I don't want to bring it up.
Yeah.
So I just ask the questions.
Even when it looks easy to manage,
I just got my wrist slapped. I feel like hey, nobody puts DB in the corner, huh, Shane? You got my back? Nah, he's scared. He's scared to death.
You can ask me whatever you want. I'm pretty open about it. I like educating people about it because it is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I get really frustrated because people lump type 2 and type 1 into the same thing, and they're very different diseases, even though they're both called diabetes, right? It's just a very
what do you say again?
I say diabetes.
Beatus?
Yeah.
Not diabetes.
Everybody else says diabetes. I know that. I've always said it diabetes.
Okay.
I just have. I'm probably wrong, and that's fine. I'm okay.
It's okay. It must be something about guys that I work with, they put their own spin on how to say certain words.
Like repercussions?
Which single-handedly was birthed into one of the greatest 9 minutes in radio. Anyway.
No,
I may be biased. It was probably top 6 moments.
It was pretty good. No, I do get frustrated when people don't know the difference. So I'm always happy to talk about it. But let me just tell you this: even type 1 diabetics, where it looks easy to manage, they're having a hell of a time.
Yeah. Oh, I watch her. I'm like, I watch.
Like it sucks. Like
Yeah.
there's no two ways about it. It's just it's a tough, and it's a tough deal. Not a fan.
All right, Denny Downer.
0 out of 5 stars. Would not recommend. Cannot endorse.
I want to tell another story, but it's not sports related.
Let's go.
I got it.
Let's just do it.
No.
Let's just do it.
No.
We got it.
No. Short story is there's a guy on TikTok that makes fun of Keith Lee food critique videos.
Oh yeah.
And he is hilarious. And he'll say things like, I give it 8, I give it 6.5 sixth graders out of 12 cafeteria menu or something, so when you said that 0 out of 5, it made me think of that.
All right, defensive back breakdown, because it's a football.
Why are we going
show.
to DBs? Because I made the joke about having little DBs?
No, actually, because DBs have been on the list for like a week, and we just haven't got to it.
I felt bad. I feel like you felt like I was chastising you last night, and you go, "Oh, I got to do a better job of getting to it." I was like, "No, I'm not mad at you. I just think we have 2 days to be fairly informative."
See, and the way I looked at it too, because
talk to me. Let's talk about this.
We do have 2 days to be fairly informative, but I also think we've got a whole off season after the spring game where people are gonna, especially if they like what they see on Saturday, people are gonna be real hungry for more.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Does your gut tell you that people will like what they see on Saturday?
I think it's going to. I don't know that it's going to be as explosive as maybe people are expecting after the last scrimmage and the talk about the last scrimmage, but I think overall people are going to be pleased. I do.
Okay,
that's just my gut.
No,
I mean, listen, I've made no bones about this. I am fully on the roulade rule train, whatever you want to call it. I think this team can make a college football playoff within the next 2 years. Not this year, but within the 2 years after that, I think they can make a college football playoff. It's 12 teams. You get to like 9-ish wins, you're in the neighborhood already. I think that's really doable, and I think they're on the right trajectory. And I like the way this staff is handling everything. They're, we talked about this yesterday with the watering bad plants versus getting new ones.
Yeah, I did not know he was a former player of yours. So do you think he would mind if I called him IC? Because I just went straight to IC.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I didn't realize.
People say IGC.
Yeah. We don't really ask about nicknames most of the time. We're just like, yeah, it's all good.
I just give them.
But I think this staff has done a really good job of both getting the most out of the players that are there while continuing to upgrade talent. And that to me is a recipe for success. Like, I think they're going to be in a really good spot. And like, I'll put 25 or 26, this team's in a college football playoff.
Okay. You're on record.
Putting it out there.
Hopefully I still like you by then.
I hope
because I'll remember it.
Hopefully you still like me by the end of the show.
It's always
it's a little dicey someday.
Always a dice roll. Come on, 7-Eleven. Mama need new shoes. Damn. Snake eyes.
4, 6, 8, 12
again. Let's get into defensive backs a little bit, because I like this group in general.
I keep hearing that.
I do think there are questions.
I would agree.
And my first question to you about those questions, we talked about running backs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have options or do they have answers? So I'm looking at the other cornerback spot opposite Tommy Hill. I'm looking at any sort of depth at the safety positions and behind Tommy Hill.
Now, are we talking about, for this exercise, are we talking about safeties different from corners, or are we just all inclusive?
Right now I'm all inclusive,
like your vacation resorts.
But we can definitely separate them out because they're very different groups.
Okay.
Right?
Because, by the way, when those all inclusive, you got to pay an upcharge to get the premium liquor.
Oh yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I get my money's worth. Don't you worry.
You and Jose Cuervo. Enjoy that.
My pina colada is giving me a headache.
It's because it's 90% sugar, bud.
Hey, what's the T
good.
word in wines that affects your taste?
Tannins.
Tannins.
The tannins.
Well, like you're drinking Merlot as opposed to Merlot on your all inclusive.
This is definitely not from France.
Yeah. It's not about DBs either. We got to get back to DBs.
This is from New Mexico.
Hey. So you make good things down in Mexico.
Yeah, it's not wine. I said New Mexico.
Oh. Yeah, do they grow grapes in Albuquerque?
I don't think they can grow much in Albuquerque, except for meth. That's a Breaking Bad joke. That's not an indictment on the state or city. I don't know. If you had to guess right now, who starts opposite Tommy Hill? Because Coach Rule kind of told us, right? He goes, he thinks it's going to be Hill and Hill.
Yes,
Is that what you're riding with?
For now.
Okay. What are the other options there that you were interested by?
That's the thing. I mean,
because they liked Jeremiah Charles for a minute, right? But he got a little banged up.
Yeah. So there was Charles, there was Nation, there was
Nation's little.
They kind of all are.
Yeah. Charles isn't that little, is he?
It's not big.
He's not big, but he's not like Ethan Nation's little.
So, Boodle's not a big guy,
right?
Although I do like the way he wears 21.
Okay.
He got on the elevator the other day. I was like, "Hey, man, this is gonna sound weird. Love the number." He's like, "Thanks, sir." I was like, "Oh, one of the good guys." He said, "Sir." Yeah, I'll go with Hill. But so my thing is, it just takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a very demanding. You have a very demanding coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the other day, it's like, "Hey, man, DB, we're gonna go over some of this," and he told me a couple concepts. So I was like, "Oh, cool. You can steal a couple drills, right?" And I just watch guys try to get a feel and understand the concept. And I just think if you don't come out of programs that focus on specific things, making the transition can be a little bit difficult. Because who are the most explosive guys that you're seeing? Who are the most explosive guys outside of dominant edge rushers? You make the case the most explosive people out there are wide receivers.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult job by nature.
100%.
So you need to be doing all the human cheat codes you can get.
And you're at a disadvantage, right? Because you're reacting rather than being proactive.
100%, right? Trying to hit a ball with a bat. That's why baseball and offense is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So for these guys, like managing splits and hash, and is this a route I can drive on versus a,
and you're looking
come
at a
rally.
lot of different stuff at the
so
same time.
all those things, hey, what are we giving up in this defense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not driving. I'm not. When I say drive on a route, I mean I'm not closing on that route when I'm in matchup principles. I may be looking for something a little deeper. I'll rally to that, meaning I'll come up and make that play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not driving on that route.
Mm-hmm.
So like understanding those little nuances, I think are tough for young guys. So they may have numbers, but I'm not sure. If you're rolling out tomorrow, how what's my level of how comfortable am I? Right? Because a lot of those guys are young. Shoot, you've had Bly since January.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking through the list here.
Nation young, Charles young.
Do you think there's a chance that, and Coach Coop talked about this a little bit with kind of the positional versatility and stuff like that. I know they like Malcolm Hartzog better at safety. Is there a chance with his experience that maybe they mess around if they don't like what they're seeing at that other spot?
I would say no for right now. Hartzog is a guy, he looks small in stature. You see him in just like plain clothes. Mm-hmm. He's yoked. So he's done a good job of putting his body in good position to play that kind of that field safety spot. I would leave him where he is for right now.
Okay.
We'll get back to the DBs.
We will get back to the DBs in a little bit. Coming up next, though, we've got Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network, because you know what? It's Kevin Costner Day. It's draft day. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back with more. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we are joined now by Cynthia Frelund of the NFL Network, to talk a little NFL draft. Cynthia, how are you this morning?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
Oh, it's a fantastic day. We're just all happy, just happy, joy. Appreciate you taking some time. I know it is pretty hectic over there. Is anything going on today? I mean, how's the morning so far?
I mean, it's great. I woke up in my home state, which I don't usually get to do, and there's something going on here. People are actually tailgating outside of my window already.
That's incredible. I love it. That's incredible.
Yeah, and actually looking at a man in a Cowboys jersey, which in a Michael Irvin Cowboys jersey, which is
I gotta say,
okay.
the people that come to watch the draft are the most interesting type of fan to me, because you're watching like 3 minutes of your team and you are just decked out. I love it. It's incredible.
Who doesn't like seeing grown-ups in face paint? I mean, come on.
Me and Rory, who's the Lions mascot, we have we're like really good friends. And by really good friends, I mean I tweet at him and he tweets at me. So it's really great.
Maybe so. The whole Irvin and Dallas thing. Maybe they thought that the D that the Tigers were stands for something other than Detroit. Do you think maybe they're confused? A little inebriated this morning or something?
I think these people are hoping to. I think these Cowboys. There are Cowboys fans everywhere, and they're crazy. I'm also seeing now. Okay, at least now I see a Lions jersey, which makes more sense. These people are rolling suitcases. Like we are doing things right around here.
Yeah, that's the best part to me is people actually travel to just random locations to watch people read names. And listen, I'm gonna camp out in front of my TV and do the same thing. So no room to judge here. But I love it.
Cynthia, I gotta ask you something, because this just came up with the NCAAs and the host sites, and we were talking about Detroit. And I said quietly, Detroit has done a really good job with, the city renovations and their projects where they've kind of rebuilt and redesigned the downtown area. It can't be coincidence that the draft was on the horizon in 2024 when this first started a handful of years ago, because that city is vastly different if you've been there the last 4 or 5 years.
I mean, since 2008, Detroit's made a big comeback. To me, that whole grit thing from last year, which was basically the mantra of the team, that really embodies the entire city. I'm sitting at a renovated hotel right now that is very, very cool. I would say the name of it. I feel like there's a safety concern there, but I'll say the name next time I'm on. But it's a really cool renovated hotel that's just really kind of I would highly recommend this to anyone, and it's beautiful, and there's just so much shit. There's a lot of excitement around here. I'm really excited. All the sets look incredible. Detroit's really done it right. I keep telling people I want people to leave here loving Detroit as much as I do.
That's awesome.
All right, Cynthia, let's jump into the nitty gritty here on draft day, round number 1. The quarterbacks are the big story, right? And I'm sure we'll get to them in a second here, but I'm curious who you look at as a guy that has tremendous ability, because there's always that guy, people are like, oh, this guy's a can't miss, but he's going to go 12th in the draft because of positional value. Is that Brock Bowers?
Maybe. I mean, the interesting part, that was not where I thought you were going when you started saying that question. But I think that right now the value of a pass-catching tight end feels really big. But, I mean, would you say Dalton Kincaid was that? Because I don't know. Would you say Kyle Pitts was that? I don't know. And that's kind of how we felt about at least Kyle Pitts prior to the draft.
Yeah.
A lot of it is dependent on where people end up and how they're used. And I would say with tight ends, you need to give it a couple of seasons to figure out, because the college game translated to the NFL game is very different, and defenses operate differently. Even if you look at the number of times a defense plays man versus zone defense, it's just going to be different. So I don't know if there's any such thing as a can't miss, but I do think following the trends that seem to be working in the league and adapting play to, take advantage of the way the modern rules and the whole nuances of the game work, I do think that's important.
So, Cynthia, I got to ask, where did you think I was going? Because now I'm curious.
I thought you were going to, it's funny because I thought maybe O-line, because this is a very prolific O-line class.
Sure.
To say that, I would say we could easily, the record right now stands at 8 offensive tackles drafted in the first round. And I do think we could see that record broken in this draft. So I thought you were going to say maybe a Joe Alt, which is the left tackle, obviously, or maybe even like one of the less sexy names. He went to Notre Dame. So is that sexy? I don't know. But, it's ultimately, I thought that's where you were going.
Nothing says sexy like Terre Haute, I'm telling you. Cynthia, when you're talking about record breaking, and I get it, like at the top, Neighbors is making a push. Harrison Jr. has one of the highest draft grades in recent memory, but it doesn't appear to be like a 2004 draft, even though, the Michael Jenkins and the Rashawn Woods, Reggie Williams, the guys that kind of the second half of that draft maybe didn't elevate the top. Do you see the depth? We just were joking about a guy like Keon Coleman, who's not going to be a first rounder, but could be a really good pick for someone. You look at the top end for wide receivers versus the depth. Do those two things, do they mesh for you?
Well, I guess our perception of that is colored by where someone is drafted. Keon could go in the first round. I think it depends on, like, if some weird things happen, like the Titans go wide receiver, then I think we could see a little bit more of a run on them than offensive lineman or something, of that nature. But I think there's like a lot more flavors of wide receiver in this one than maybe we've seen in recent years, because, NIL, we have the confluence of NIL, the transfer portal, all the rules changed, everything's different, all that's happening. And then, oh, by the way, we still have a bunch of people who, within the COVID rule, they, played an extra season, so they're kind of old. And then we have some young. This is a weird year for a lot of that stuff. So I'm looking at all of this and I'm saying, if you want to get a wide receiver that you think is going to fit your team, you better know exactly what you want, because they don't all do the same thing.
For you at the top, because now it almost seems like, and maybe some of it is on Harrison Jr. for not doing anything since the season, but Neighbors seems to have closed the gap. If nothing else, is it running after the catch? Is it catch radius? What's the primary difference between 1 and 1A of let's say Neighbors and Harrison Jr.?
Well, I think part of it is, if you kind of track the quarterbacks in this, you've seen Jaden Daniels have this massive uptick in people's interest as well. And you know who he's throwing the ball to? Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that when people were watching a bunch of Jaden Daniels footage, they also watched the guys who he was throwing the ball to, and it started to become more of a, is it more chicken or egg? Meaning, is it more the guy throwing in the ball or the guy catching the ball? So I would say that, Malik is a wonderful receiver, but I don't have him graded any differently now than I did at the end of the season. And I don't care that Marvin Harrison Jr. Didn't do anything he didn't need to. So I'm kind of glad he didn't, frankly.
We're talking with Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. Cynthia, when you're looking at teams, it seems like we have a pretty good idea what the first couple teams are going to do. Where do you start? What point in the draft do you start to think this could become a real wild card? Is it at 4 with Arizona maybe wanting to trade out, or where do you think this thing could kind of get off the rails?
I actually think you could start at 3. I think the Patriots, they were, it depends on how much of an influence the ownership has on picking a quarterback, because I actually think that they don't just have one need. They have many needs. So they'd be smart to think about trading down, not even that far. They could probably trade down. I don't know. I mean, I'm not suggesting the Giants would trade with them or make for a quarterback. That's kind of a weird one in terms of historical,
right?
Like Giants and Patriots, whatever. But, they could potentially look at something like that. That could be a way to stay in the top 10, but kind of maneuver and get an extra pick from that, like a legit extra early pick.
I told, we had the opening segment and I said, I get it. Like, quarterbacks are going to go 1-2, but who could really throw a monkey wrench in this thing is the Patriots, because then all of a sudden, let's say the Patriots, because they do have a lot of needs. And that's what we were talking about in our first segment. So that all of a sudden puts teams like the Raiders, Denver, San Diego, Minnesota. If they do something unexpected, that's going to get all those teams' attention, and they all have a pick in the first 13 spots. Like, it could heat up in a hurry if they throw a curveball.
I kind of hope they do. I mean,
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So I'm into it. But I also think, unless ownership is really influencing it, you don't really get a chance to reset after a coach like Bill Belichick. Like, we don't really see that because there is no other Belichick. I mean, Parcells, whatever. There's a few times when we've had such prolific coaches, but maybe take the moment. You're probably not getting fired in 1 year, Let's let the teams that are more on the hot seat make the get pressured into having to develop a quarterback day one. Like, their O-line isn't one that I would want to stand behind at this point, right? So, there's just a lot of things there that, I don't know, maybe it's not sexy, but they're also in a really, really hard division. It's not like the Bills, I know they traded Stephon Diggs, but they're not taking their foot off the gas. Are you kidding me? Aaron Rodgers is back, just in case anyone forgot about that. And the Dolphins, they're also really good. So, if there was ever a time to sort of take a beat, this could be it. Again, not sexy, but I have no problem saying that because those people have a lot of things to be happy for from, 10 years ago.
Okay, Cynthia, let's talk about trading back for a minute, because I know all the studies and all the numbers say that trading back is the smart thing to do. You get more assets, you make your team in general better. If you're in a spot, though, where let's say Drake May is there at 3 and they believe Drake May is that dude, he is that guy, like, at what point does that balance shift from, hey, we need a lot of talent and we've got a lot of holes to fill, to, hey, we've got an opportunity here on a guy that we think is generational?
I mean, if you think they're generational, you take them. You don't mess around. You don't get cute. If you have questions as to whether it's generational, I'm kind of more of I like the philosophy of unless there's no certainty here. Sometimes you need more. All the studies also show that if you take more more picks, you do better because
margin of error.
Of being right. Yeah, exactly.
So, Cynthia, let me ask you some hot take, or you could see this happening. Earlier, we were talking. I said, you know what? The more I get into this, and it started with my thought process about what New England could do a couple of weeks ago, because I was totally with you on the New England, the shakeup thing. Could you see where 4 quarterbacks don't go in the top 10 like many had projected up until now? Because I think that's a thing now.
Yeah, I do think if that were to be the case, we would end up with 4 because someone would trade back into the end of the first round.
See, that's what
Because if you think about it, like even the Lions, who
top 10,
I would be surprised if they don't pick because it's like hard not to pick in your hometown when all these people are like excited for it. But like, there are a bunch of teams picking in the 20s where if their guy isn't there, and Brad Holmes did such a good job in free agency that they don't have like a specific need and they don't need a quarterback. So if this other team comes up and is like, let's say the Raiders want to come back up and do something crazy, right? Like that would be a prime position to do it. So if it doesn't happen early, I do think we see some at the back half because, remember, if you draft the first rounder, you get that option for the 5th year of their rookie contract, which is becoming increasingly more valuable.
Cynthia, I'm curious, when you look at some of these teams that feel like they're close, right? Whether it is I don't know if the Giants feel like they're close, but teams in the back half of the
that's an easy one.
That's fair. But teams in the back half of the first round, teams like the Bills, teams like the Lions. I know obviously you're a big Detroit fan, but you mentioned trading back out of that first round. If you feel like you're close, does it make more sense there when you really might only be a piece away from kind of getting yourself back over the top?
I mean, I'm looking at the Bills for this one because they have a lot of needs and at key positions, corner, wide receiver, pass rusher, expensive positions. So if you're looking at position expense, it's like your quarterback, obviously, and then like your pass rusher / your left tackle. Then you have to look at your wide receiver and your corners. Those are the 5 most expensive positions. So if you have needs at those positions and there's a guy there that you think could be the right one, I don't think you risk it and trade down, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're like the Lions, where you have some positional flexibility, you just paid your wide receiver 1, so you don't need to go find that. Of course, it'd be nice to get a few more complementary pieces, perhaps some younger guys with some speed, etc. But you could probably get that in later rounds. So you have to know yourself well enough to know if you can be in a position to trade down, or if you're better suited just to take, by the time you get to 20, the marginal difference between the second round, you don't earn a lot more picks for that. Like you're moving in the top 10, you earn there's significant equity. You get so many more picks. But if you're moving down at the 20s and late 20s, it's just not that different. You don't get that many. It's not like you're netting yourself a first round pick somewhere.
Cynthia, when's the last time you remember a team that had such a good offseason that they could go without a first round pick and people think about them as a legitimate Super Bowl contender like the Houston Texans?
Well, I would say my caveat there is that Will Anderson or CJ Stroud, one of the two of them you could consider as a first round pick this year.
They did get the two, right? Bang, bang.
Yep. So you now know who they are. You know what I mean? Like, if you can afford to pay for things like a nice Stephon Diggs moment or all of the trades they did in this offseason, and you're in their division, like that was some really smart maneuvering. Now, in 3 years, are we going to have some different questions for them? Absolutely. But that's just where they are in their trajectory, right? Like, it's just going to be different based on, always that rookie quarterback contract. You've got to take advantage of it.
When you're looking at potential top half the draft guys, and obviously we may only get one defensive guy in the top 10, who do you think has kind of suffered the most from people maneuvering with all the offensive talk and quarterback shuffles that's sitting there defensively that's probably going to be better than where he may be picked? Because I'm seeing some guys now that have burst out of the top 10, and I'm like, really? I remember when it was a fight between he and Dallas Turner.
Who's burst out of the top 20?
Who's the defensive guy that you think is suffering from all the pre-draft talk?
I think my favorite name in the draft, but also a guy who fits the bill for what you're asking, is Chop Robinson from Penn State. He doesn't have the explicit numbers that some of these other guys like a Verse have, but and of course not Turner, but what he does have is a true pass rushing capability. Some people think he's a little bit undersized. I don't know if I believe that or not. Aaron Donald was pretty good, and he was considered undersized. He doesn't have a lot of versatility in the run game, but much of that is resume based. He wasn't really asked to stop the run, so it's not that he performed poorly in it. It's that he just didn't do it. So it's like a hole in his resume, not a negative thing. But in this point, we're going through such a fine-tooth comb that any difference like that becomes a major one.
All right, Cynthia, we got to get into quarterbacks now because I want to. I am having a really hard time looking at anybody outside of Caleb Williams and convincing myself that I don't like Michael Penix just as much as any of the other guys that we've been talking about. Am I crazy?
No, I think Michael Penix is probably amongst, when I talk to GMs and all the people I've spoken to this past week, they're like, you guys did not talk about Michael Penix enough. You downgraded him too much. I think both he and Bo Nix, people were like, they put them in that third tier. So it was I would say JJ McCarthy's been the biggest riser. Jaden Daniels, big riser too. Bo Nix sort of got relegated into that third spot. And then there's a line in the sand, and then it's Michael Penix and Bo Nix. And I don't know if that's true or not, but a lot of the people I trust and whose opinion I think actually is very, very smart, they say things like, yeah, I think you're looking at Penix and you're undervaluing me. This guy, he throws the fastest, hardest ball, which is kind of like Josh Allen. He's done it. I think part of the reason was he had an injury in the past, but then he's been healthy for quite a while. I like Penix too. I think this is where it comes down to flavors, right? Do you think you can work with it? He's not the same type of quarterback as him and Bo Nix are quite different. So there's a lot of sort of, again, flavors with that, but I think he'll be a Raider.
I'm unapologetic Steelers fan, but I got to stay in the Keystone State here because Roseman is so aggressive, and people are kind of forgetting that the Eagles roster is not too bad, especially if Hurts bounces back. How interesting would it be? Because I could see a team like Philadelphia really shaking things up because they just strike me as the type of organization that would be looking for a reason to keep or get rid of their coach, right? All their chips appear to be pushed in. Could you see the Eagles being a player in the first round at 22?
It's certainly possible. I feel like they would. I mean, they're in that fortunate position where they need some stuff, but they don't. But one of the things they need, interior O-line, that's going to be one of those things that gets pushed down to early second. So I don't think they're going to have to go up to get this is a really strong O-line class. So I would guess they're probably not trying to move into the first. It's entirely possible for the right deal, but I don't know who would be trading down. at that point that would be a good trade partner with them.
All right. Again, the aforementioned Steelers fan, I'm not used to their free agency activity. Khan has definitely been a shakeup. They strike me as a team that's going to make some moves as well. Maybe get a Sutton or an Ayuk or somebody, pry some teams away with their picks. Do I need to get ready for a different kind of Steelers team as they approach these next couple of years?
I don't know. I mean, I think what the Steelers have always done is they don't listen to anyone else. They have their own way of thinking. They know what a Steeler is incredibly well. You've seen it by the results that Mike Tomlin's had, even with guys who on other teams have been not nice guys or hard to work with, right? He's made these people assets as opposed to liabilities. So I'm not worried at all about that part. We may not understand it as outsiders, but I do think like this is going to look different, but not because the Steelers' identity is different, but the pool of available assets from which they're drawing is different than it has been in recent years. More
apt to be involved in a draft day trade, Ayuk, Lockett, or Cortland Sutton?
Ooh. Sutton, because I think that the Broncos just need to figure out quarterback, and I don't think Zach Wilson's the answer.
How about that move, though? Is that just Peyton's confidence, or you can get him on the cheap for a second with no strings attached?
It's why not?
Yeah.
It's totally like, to me, it's a flyer. There's no harm in that. If he turns out to be great, cool. If not, no one will remember it. It's not. I mean, remember that he's paying for the sins of a weird trade to get
Russell Wilson
a couple of years ago.
Cynthia, since we brought up Brandon Ayuk, and by we I mean DB, when you're looking at paying a guy like Brandon Ayuk $20+ million a year over multiple years, at what point do you just say, "Hey, I can get 80% of his production with maybe with a second round guy of Keon Coleman or some?" I know there are different types of players, but at what point does that equation start not making sense anymore?
When Kyle Shanahan's not there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a better answer than that.
That's it. There's a couple of people like Justin Jefferson. Like, you better get a guy that can sling it if you want any sort of value with re-signing him in Minnesota, right? It's complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. It's less complicated when you're that team and you've got Christian McCaffrey and you've got that. It's like they have a vision. They know what they want. So if someone fits their vision, then I believe them.
Hey, one of the best in the business, Cynthia. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. Great stuff there as always. We will be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Halfway through the show here on a Thursday on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
To this day.
Great stuff from Cynthia there.
Yeah, she's hilarious. I wanted to ask her, whose city is it?
Personality-wise?
Yeah.
We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
Is it Eminem City?
He seems like the most accurate representation.
Although I did hear your mom's spaghetti was not that great. The restaurant.
So, I don't know.
So is it going to be opening with Eminem tonight then?
I mean, he's got to be there. He's now. I'm biased. Yeah. Like, full disclosure. Yeah. Like, I love the guy.
Big Eminem guy.
Oh yeah. I you talk about putting your fists up at the barbershop.
Yeah. Ooh. You'll fight over him?
Well, see, but full disclosure, my barber's favorite is Tupac.
Okay.
And Tupac is I love Tupac too. So I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go lay my head down and take a dirt nap on that hill. But
there's some people.
I'm just a big fan.
There's some people that are Eminem haters.
Yeah.
Is the guy that cut your hair, is he older?
DK is 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah. In the same neighborhood.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you're right there. He's no old soul. He may look younger too.
He does look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's good.
The Supernovas back in action here in Omaha on Friday. It's a late night one tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Go to supernovas.com for tickets, schedule information. Just 2 home games left. Make sure you get out to the Omaha Supernovas. That's supernovas.com for tickets.
Who's Omaha? Whose city is Omaha? Warren Buffett's?
You know, it do have a lot of millionaires per capita. So, you know, Buffett might be a vibe there. You know, I think there's
Is Crawford in the discussion?
So that was the name that came to my mind immediately. I do think there's a little bit of so Crawford kind of has a chip on his shoulder a little bit, and this is a weird analogy, but that's kind of how I felt when the whole Trev stuff was going down. Don't be disrespectful to where I'm from. That's like, I know, listen, I get Nebraska and Omaha are not for everyone. I get that. It was our motto, and I'm okay with it, right? But it can be not for you, but don't pretend it's for you and act like you're one of us and then peace out to some place that I know is not a better job because you just had to fire 20 people.
Stop it.
And you had a murder investigation on day one.
Stop it.
On day one?
Stop it.
What am I stopping? Hey, you stop me when I tell a lie.
Dang, I didn't know my man Jay was going to hate on Eminem. Come on, Jay.
So like, there's a part of me
He said, "No, I'm hurt."
That I think identifies more with Crawford's kind of demeanor. Like, he's pretty quiet.
Yeah, I am Bill. Yeah,
he kind of operates in silence. But if you mess around, you're gonna find out.
Yeah, that's a Matt Verzal t-shirt.
That's I kind of feel like maybe this is a Bud Crawford city.
Yeah, and I think you'd like it to be, right?
Absolutely. I'll ride with that.
Yeah,
a couple of those guys, by the way, Snoop, Eminem.
What about him?
And
he's just naming rappers now.
What about him?
I think they were at their best when they were under the direction of Dre.
Stop it. You're taking this someplace we don't need to go. Although I would entertain that. That's not bad. I'm a big Dre guy. It was probably Gordie Howe before he passed because I think he passed away in like 16.
Oh, for Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that is a.
And Barry doesn't go there, but like, who's the? Joe Louis isn't around. I mean, they've had some studs from there. I guess I'd say M.
Hockey feels like one of those places that.
Well, it's one of the original. I mean,
it's primarily a hockey town.
Yeah.
Like, first and foremost, right? There's not a ton of those in the U.S., but I think Detroit might be one of them.
Wait, he's long been gone, so I wouldn't say it. But isn't Ty Cobb from Detroit?
Ty Cobb was Georgia.
I think he's. Are you sure?
Ty Cobb was the Georgia Peach, wasn't he?
Why do I think Ty? Why am I thinking
it would probably be more? Wouldn't it
Did
be
he
more?
Play for the Tigers?
Yes. Wouldn't it be more? Wouldn't it be more?
But he's from Georgia.
But wouldn't it be more Kirkstown than it would be Ty's Town?
Gibson?
Yeah.
Here's the problem with Gibson.
No.
His
Gibson's
famous
signature moment is in a different
with the Dodgers.
city.
That's the problem with Gibson. His most famous moment is with the Dodgers.
Which, by the way, I was traumatized yesterday, but it was cool to hang out with him. We had an appreciation deal for football, and we saw Darren Ruff spoke to some of the kids.
Oh, nice.
And somebody raised I think it was Jake. It was one of the guys raised their hand about what was his signature moment, like signature swing. And obviously, as a Philly and Giants, whatever.
West Side guy.
Oh yeah, and
he hit one of the hardest hit balls I've ever seen in my life.
Listen, he started to tell a story, and the minute he said the pitcher, I guarantee I was the only one in the room that could have finished his story.
Who?
The bomb he hit off Julio Urias.
Oh,
in Game 5.
Yep.
And I was like, he started to tell the story, and I just sunk further in my seat. And we were doing workouts, and the next morning, Coach Sikora was giving me a hard time about the Dodgers blowing it and Ruff being the guy. And I looked at it, Coach Sikora, and I said, if it had been anybody else other than Ruff, I'd be pissed. It's just.
There was so when I was in high school, I think he's either same class as me or maybe a year ahead or behind me, whatever. We're in the same neighborhood.
Yeah. He's a great football player.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, he's got records.
But we're at the Millard West Invitational. So we're playing right on Q Street there, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it was Millard North's second game of the day and like third in 2 days, I think, if I remember right. And so
you're like a guy that says, I don't know, roughly 7 seconds, something like that.
I don't know for sure exactly. I do know.
Sounds pretty specific, but go ahead.
I do know that Miller North was on not their primary starting pitching staff type guy. Okay. And this was a nice high school pitcher, but when you're going up against a guy like Darren Ruff, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, he's sitting in the 70s with his fastball, and like which in high school, like you can get away with that with a lot of teams.
He turned it around on him.
He hit this ball so hard. And like this is 2004, 2005.
You're like traumatized.
Well, it's like so the bats were a little hotter than they are now. Not that.
Well, you're not kidding. You're right. The core. Oh yeah.
So they were
100%.
They weren't like late 90s bats, but they hadn't gone full BB core yet, right? So they were a little hotter than they are now. And this ball was still rising as it crossed Q Street.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got the trees behind the Millard Westfield, the pine trees.
Yeah.
That try and keep the balls from hitting people on Q Street. He hit that ball, and I was like, oh, he might kill somebody.
Yeah.
And then when it got to Q Street, it still looked like it was going up. You remember that Albert Pujols home run in Houston? The one on the train tracks?
Oh, yeah.
That looked like it was still rising when it hit the train tracks?
He has the easiest follow-through swing ever.
That's what this ball looked like from Darren Ruff. He hit that thing so far, I thought he might kill an employee at Hy-Vee. And it got out so fast. It was like, you ever seen somebody?
What a random, isolated, committed to memory thing.
He hit that ball so hard. I will, like, if I, heaven forbid, ever end up with some memory disease, like, that will be the last thing I forget.
Yeah, guess what? You throw me one of those EFIS 12-6 curveballs, you may see something similar.
I'm not saying you can't hit it. I'm saying it'll move like it's supposed to. That's all I'm saying. That's all I've ever said. Let's get to Don on the Hurrdat hotline. He was talking about Detroit Rappers. That's why I only left him with a minute and a half. Don, go ahead.
Gentlemen, how are we this morning?
What's up, buddy? What we got? Are you first of all, are you behaving yourself on social media? That's number one.
Oh, come on now. My social media presence is a little bit different than yours. I have like 239 followers, and like 90 of them are porn bots.
Oh, Lord.
So I'm not really concerned about what falls out of my head.
Is this the Don guy that's always Is this Don Meyer?
Oh,
my bad. It's in his Twitter handle. What am I going to do? My bad.
Don. Go ahead. What do you got for me on M? And be careful. Shane, get by the dump button, Shane.
No, I will remain compliant. I can work a boardroom. I can work a radio show.
I got you.
Don't worry about it. All right. Holy cow. Have some confidence.
What do you got for me on M? Quick. What do you got?
All right, here's the deal, man. I was at Warner Park yesterday, and I saw something.
Paul Skeens?
Oh, my goodness. So me and my boy, I ran into Knutson. I haven't seen him in 30 years.
Yeah. Great player.
Yeah, hell of a ball player.
Great player.
I was there with Danny Hendricks. That's who I went with.
Nice.
And Danny and I, we spent about 12 to 15 pitches behind Paul when he was warming up in the bullpen.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that really got me. First off, they're working slider hard. They're trying to figure out slider.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever just giggle when you watch somebody?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like something happens, you just go because you don't have a choice.
Yep.
And if you're not following our social media account on Hurrdat, they got great footage of his unique warm-up style, with the little thing on his backpack and then the follow-through without using the ball, like repetitive motion. He gets it in.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So we're big body language people, both of us, this and that. And there's all these kids, you got two 50-year-olds standing behind him. You got nothing but little kids and jerseys, He doesn't pay attention to a thing. He's locked and loaded. Like he is he is on point. And the other thing was, normally when you're in the bullpen, you got a pitching coach, your catcher, maybe a couple other guys. There were like 8 dudes in there. watching him throw.
Yeah.
Not scout like other players. And then I was 3 rows up behind home plate. So I got to watch the game. First off,
how quick did you get committed? Because that thing was sold out.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
No, Dan and I just roamed wherever the hell we
All right, turnstile then. Okay. All right.
Seriously. So, like, if it was a right-handed batter, we'd switch to one seat. If it was a left-handed batter, we'd switch to another.
Dang,
So
man. Somebody may have misspoke. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was sold out, but people didn't show.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Should have known this guy was
who might have misspoke.
Fabricating. Keep Don, we appreciate it, buddy. I'll get back with you.
He got robbed on sliders. Robot umps got to go.
See you, Don. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we're live here on the stage because when we drive, we got hands on the wheel, eyes, and focus straight ahead. As drivers, we've got one job to do. That is to drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Real quick programming note here. If you only listen to us on the air, we love you. We love you listening for AM 590.
We love you long time.
And to forever. And ESPN Tri-Cities. We love you for on the live stream. But if you're not downloading the podcast too, you just missed about 3 minutes of an extra conversation with Don. Like sometimes you get a little extras, right? That's why you got to follow us everywhere we go. But where we're going next is our guy, Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. B, what is up? You're on mute, bud. We got a couple weeks without that happening.
Hey, he gives himself his own head shake. B, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing better now. I hope. You hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, good deal.
Hey, I'm curious here, B, just because I know you don't do boxing so much like you do MMA a lot, but if you're partying or you're on part of the post game with Garcia, you think he's done celebrating? Like, how many victory laps do you think Ryan Garcia is taking?
I mean, the different ladies that I've seen him with on the social media.
Unapologetically, it's just like, wow, really?
And hey, but by the way, now I hear he says he bet $2 million on himself at plus 600 to get 12 million, but I have not seen a receipt of a ticket.
Haven't seen. So you know what I wanted? Whose I wanted to see? I wanted to see the one Errol Spence held up because he was still in the ring, and they were like, "Hey, Errol, what'd you think of the fight?" He's like, "I'm just glad he won," and he pulled the ticket out. And I was like, "Ooh, can I get a Zoom job?" Like, I just wonder.
He probably had to make the money back from what he bet on himself against our guy Crawford.
Right. I mean, I was going to write an article about it on Monday, but I'm scouring the internet, and I'm not seeing a receipt. I'm not just taking his word for it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
You mean sometimes people lie about the bets they make, B?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Dude, the return on that one.
But now he had a good payday, regardless of whether he bet the $2 million
sure.
and 12.
We're going to get to the NBA and the UFC, but I mean, you're king of the sickos today with the draft. Talk to me about this. Is not a deep cut, but interesting play here at plus 125. Talk to me about JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't bet a lot of NFL draft bets because I mean, you can do your handicap perfect and you could be proven to be right a year later, 5 years later. All it takes is a general manager disagreeing with you today and then you lose the bet. So I don't do a lot of them, but I do not think, I mean, I know there's a lot of speculation about it. I just don't see JJ McCarthy being a top 5 pick. And after the first 3 quarterbacks go, now I know there's the threat of somebody trading up, but I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is sitting there at number 4 and just Joe Alt, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. I just don't see McCarthy going in the top 5. And I think if he does, I think it's somebody trading up. And I mean, we get plus money. I don't do a lot of them. I did Anthony Richardson under 4.5 last year. I forget who I did 2 years ago, but I feel like I won. Now, I haven't always won on NFL draft, but this is the one I'm taking tonight, and I like it.
All right, B, let's get into the NBA because that's what I like the most. We've got Knicks and Sixers. That has been a wild series so far. And then you get Joel Embiid giving his best Rasheed Wallace impression of guaranteeing victory over here. What do you have in that one?
Yeah, I got to go Philly here. Now we're getting the worst of the number at this point at -5, but I still like it. So when Embiid has been in uniform and healthy at home, the Sixers are 20-5 straight up, 18-7 against the spread at home this year, and I mean they got hosed by the refs, which the NBA freely admitted in their whatever they call it, their 2-minute
last minute report.
Yeah, the 2-minute report or whatever it's called. Yeah. So I mean, not that being pissed always translates to success by any means, but I think and I think maybe New York is a little bit relaxed with a 2-0 lead and feeling fortunate about it, and so I think Philly takes care of business tonight. I got the Sixers -5.
This one's interesting because it's crossed the 0, and people may not realize when this opened, the Cavs were a short fave. Now all of a sudden they're a dog. You're talking about a 3.5, 4-point swing crossing 0. What do you think?
Yeah, but I don't really worry about a line swing if it's going from like -1.5 to -1.5 because it's only gonna matter if one team wins by 1 point, exactly 1 point. Now that happens obviously, but I'm gonna go with the Magic -2. They don't have much postseason experience, and we saw that at Cleveland as they get dropped twice, and Cavs cover pretty easily. No sweat on those. I think this is the one that Orlando gets. They are 29-12 straight up, 27-13 against the spread at home, whereas the Cavs just 22-19 straight up, 19-22 against the spread on the road. I think Magic get tonight's, and then I think Cavs probably take care of business from there and likely win in 5 games, maybe 6. But I think Magic's the play tonight.
All right, B. So it doesn't look like you've got anything that you like on the Lakers in that third game tonight, which is totally fine. There's not much to like about those Lakers.
It just depends on how much LeBron's going to cry about the officiating.
If history's indication, it's going to be a lot.
Brian, do you understand? As a diehard Lakers fan, it's almost going to be the end of me having to cheer for him. I tried to hang in there. I can't do it. I just like, what was that post game the other night?
Right?
You blew a 20-point lead. It's you. So all eyes are going to be on what you're saying. And you talk about officiating?
Yeah, you're talking about the replay center? Come on,
I'm
man.
like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm like, I'm done. I tried. I feel like I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good. Yeah, I'm out, B.
I hear you. I mean, I just, I want to go Nuggets, but you would think the Lakers gonna, rise up and make that one stand at least. But I'm not betting on the Lakers.
I just don't understand. I can't see in my head how if the Lakers need a stop, they can get one.
Can't.
Right.
I just don't think that they can get. I think anytime the Nuggets like dial in and need a bucket, they can get a bucket.
Yeah, and not only was LeBron, bitching about the replay center or whatever, was Anthony Davis taking a shot at Darvin Ham with his remarks there in the post?
It seemed like it, but hey, guess what though? What'd you do the last 8 minutes of the game? Like, demand the ball.
Right. I mean, it's your coach's fault. Y'all blew a 20-point lead. I don't know.
B, you do have one more NBA play for tomorrow night, but it's not a side. It's a total in Clippers Mavs. What are you looking at there?
Yeah, so I've had the under the first 2 games. Now the line has adjusted. It was 222 in game 1, and here we are 210.5. So I mean, we're talking 11.5 point difference from game 1 to game 3. These bookmakers are tired of getting beat on these unders, but I'm still going to go with the under here. Under 210.5 Mavs and Clippers. Under on a 9-1 run in the 10 head-to-head meetings between these teams. including 4 in a row. Game 1 was 206 combined. Game 2 was only 189 combined. Kawhi looked, tentative. Obviously, he's been out a while, so I mean, kind of understandable. And then, like, I don't know that Paul George and everybody else was aggressive as they would normally be, trying to work him back into the mix. And doesn't hurt us that Hardaway averaging 14.4 points per game is listed as questionable. I think he'll probably go, but probably not at 100%. The ankle might impact his perimeter jumpers because that's his game. So give me under 210.5.
All right, let's get over to UFC. I don't know how you can come back after last weekend, but I was glad to see, on a side note, and I'll let you get to your plays in a row here for the sake of time, but Gaethje's going to actually take some time off. That's a good call, don't you think?
Yeah, he's always been pretty smart about that, and I saw what you saw. He's going to be 6 months without contact.
Yeah,
that's smart.
You see his face still.
Oh, no, I don't know that I actually saw the live interview. I just saw the headline. So he's still hurting.
It was pretty swollen. Awful lumpy.
I bet Max's leg is still pretty purple.
Well, that thing was – so that shin was – that's the one thing people didn't realize. Like, that leg was shot. He could barely walk.
That was the first thing Dana said when he came into his post-fight presser. He's like, Max Holloway is walking. Like, he was just shocked because his leg was so jacked up.
Ooh.
So what I'm going to do –
Yeah, what we got here?
Go ahead. Okay, so let's go with David Onama. Plus 145. I had him last summer, that Emmett Taporia show in Jacksonville that I went to. He got me a second round knockout. So he's a plus 145 dog, 100% finish rate, 11-2 career record, 10 of 11 finishes inside of 2 rounds, going up against Jonathan Pierce, who's off a loss. And then this newcomer who I've only studied on paper. So, I'm not implying I'm an expert on the guy, but Jonathan Denise, 6-0, 6 first-round KOs, and I don't think Austin Lane, the former Jaguar and NFL player, I just don't think he's very good. He's off a loss in the fall. Jonathan Denise by first round to win in first round, minus 125.
That's Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com, BrianEdwardsSports.com. B, we appreciate it as always.
Thanks, B.
Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a great weekend.
Michael Bruntz coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and for this hour number 3, we're on KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here from the Pillar Exterior Stage, and we are joined now by Michael Bruntz of Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, what's going on?
Not much. How you doing?
We are good. We're fighting off air, which should be a surprise to no one. But this time it's about the NFL draft, so that's always good. What's
the fight?
Oh, Ravi's one of these guys that is locked into. You didn't even let me finish. You can only take a specific position at a certain number of picks, like
in this particular draft. In this particular draft. The top 3 guys, the top 3 guys are going to be quarterbacks, whether New England trades out or not. Like, there's not another guy in that category that somebody's going to be so enamored with to go up and get number 3 for somebody else. That's my point in this draft.
Unless the Giants don't take, or unless the Patriots don't take a quarterback and they move back and you think, oh, somebody's going to move into 3 to take a quarterback.
Yeah. If you're not trading up to 3 to take
what Brunsey, what do you think Denver and let's look at the trade candidates, Minnesota, Denver, and the Raiders. What would right? Is that a stretch?
No, sorry. I'm laughing because we just recorded our podcast earlier, and this is how bad it is among the Vikings fans. They were looking up what what that stands for. So that's where they're at with their draft pick.
See, I think McCarthy's going to be the one to fall. I think all this stuff leading up to it is like much ado about nothing. But do you move into the top 10 or top 5 and not take a quarterback?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that's probably what you're looking for, right? If you're going in there. And it feels like in this draft too, there's enough there's enough okay talent that you would kind of need to move up to get very specific guys. Like I don't know, like it scared me as a Denver fan where like if you don't move up, the guys that you would get later kind of scare me a little bit more, I guess.
So
but
are you fully expecting the pick plus Cortland Sutton to move up? Like you don't think Cortland Sutton's going to be a Bronco, correct?
Well, no, because I don't think that the franchise is run by people that understand football and like competing and things like that. So I don't expect he would be. I mean, you've seen the moves they've made this week. Does that strike you as a team that's ready to win some football games?
Yeah. Although and we were talking about this with Cynthia Frelund. I agreed with her that Zach Wilson doesn't hurt you. Like that's not a big deal.
That's true. He doesn't hurt you. He doesn't get you any closer to your already very low ceiling. So,
hey, let me ask you something here. Could you see the Chargers moving off of Herbert?
I don't know. That's a good question. It depends maybe what they'd get back, I guess.
A ton.
Yeah. I mean.
And do you know who I think the trade partner would be?
Who?
Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that somebody with like that was kind of out there the last couple of days?
No, but
right?
what I
like
thought Minnesota. So originally, and maybe I just want Minnesota to do this. You know what I was hoping Minnesota would do a month ago was make a trade with Arizona to get Kyler Murray. But now I'm like, okay, if not Murray, not sure how much Harbaugh doesn't want his own quarterback, and I don't know if Herbert and he, whatever. Like maybe. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if it's just unprecedented to trade franchise quarterbacks this early in their career like that, unless you're Brett Favre and you're in Atlanta.
That was before he was a franchise quarterback, though. He hadn't established himself yet.
It's like I don't know. Something big is going to happen tonight, Bruntz. I'm sure of it.
Is your thought also because it's Harbaugh and you just really don't know what that's really going to look like?
And I think he is going to be in a hurry to put his fingerprint on this franchise, and he can stockpile a boatload of picks.
Yeah, no, that seems like a very I wouldn't be shocked. I mean,
my real reason, especially a month ago with Murray, was they have to justify Justin Jefferson's money, and so you better get a quarterback that can get him the rock. It's a very small win. Like I think they're stuck. You can't play Jefferson with Darnold or a rookie quarterback. You just can't.
No, it's true.
You can't play him with a rookie quarterback.
No way.
You can't get Penix there and just let him chuck deep balls all day.
To pay him $40 million? No way.
I'm just asking.
You Bruntz, am I nuts?
No, I mean it's a fair. I would not mind getting to ride the Penix roller coaster, whatever that looks like. But
is Schaefer just in full-fledged grip mode?
Well, he's got the kid in the Vikings gear.
And he ate well yesterday too. Did you see him on the griddle? Oh my Lord!
Yeah, that was impressive. I think there's a lot of nervousness over there that they're going to be having
Shelby.
to support JJ McCarthy. Yeah.
It's not.
It's Jonathan James, by the way.
Rest easy. I want to tell Schaefer to rest easy. It's not going to be. I just don't think they take McCarthy. But speaking of not rest easy, we had another midweeker. I don't know if you saw.
I was there.
Oh, you mean how Creighton swept Coastal Carolina, number 13 team ranked in the country?
No.
It's different midweek?
Although Sailors did leave the yard again, so that's always a good thing.
You mean how Paul Skeens was just painting?
Man, you guys, that was impressive. Like,
dude, he's sick.
I was front row for that, and it was 98, 98, 95 sinker. Like, that was the first at bat.
Hey, what are you doing if you're not left-handed, which I think is probably the only side that has a chance? What are you doing with a heavy sinker like that as a as a right-handed hitter? Absolutely nothing.
Closing your eyes and just hoping you hit it, like
to hit a dribbler somewhere. There's just no way.
That's a seeing eye single.
here's the way the two runs scored. Like a lefty, I forget who it was, barreled them up, and the right fielder's tracking the ball and actually collided with the wall and fell down. And the hitter ended up on third with a triple, and then they drove him in. Second run was Skeens basically threw Wild to second on a double play ball, and they got an unearned run on it. I mean, he was just like in complete control the whole time. Like it's as like a baseball fan, like it kind of sucks with the team control thing, because like he has no business pitching in AAA right now. Like he needs to be in Major League Baseball. Like it was kind of unfair, but really cool to see. I mean, it was yeah. 98 gets on you fast. Put it that way.
Did you see Mason Miller coming for you guys?
Yes, if the control was there, and that was the question, and it's there. I mean, you know,
I watched him again against the Yankees yesterday, or 2 days ago. What he did to the heart of that lineup, they didn't have a Bruntz. It wasn't just cheese. They looked awful doing it. You see what he did to Soto?
Yeah. I mean, it's for a right-handed hitter. I mean, he really hits the outside fastball spots really well, and has been this year. I mean, it's 101 on the black. Like, what do you do there? Like, you hope you flip it into right field somehow. Like that's a tough thing to do. I mean, he's going to be a great Yankee or Astro or whoever pretty soon. But yeah.
You fit right in with Vikings and Twins fans. Like, you're definitely in your wheelhouse with those.
He's a fatalist.
You guys are so doom and gloom.
Fatalist.
Well, I have like 20 years of proof on that.
Yeah, it's like you've gone from anecdotal to empirical data, right? Like, you're like, look, man, where do you want to start?
Until somebody sells the team, we got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that they trade with the Orioles and get some good prospects back. Like, that's where I'm at now.
Bruntz, I just want to throw this stat at you. So Skeens had 7 Ks in 4 1/3 yesterday, which dropped his K per 9 average to 18.
Yeah. His strike percentage going into that was like 60-something%. Like it's because what's his ERA? It's still like, it was like 0.57, something like that.
Yeah, it jumped all the way up to 1.8 yesterday.
Oh, geez.
Atrocious.
Wow. Send him down. Yeah.
All right, now we're gonna have to go rapid fire. Every time I get you under like the 12-minute window, it's like, oh gosh, I'm gonna lose his brilliance. I'm gonna start with baseball before we get into. I'll let Ravi do some spring football. Are you just over, like, waived it? Just, it's not gonna happen with Nebraska midweek, and you're like, okay, how many Big Ten series can we win? Like, where are you emotionally with that?
No, I mean, I think you're seeing where they still need to add pitching depth. I mean, they've improved bullpen depth, and even the other night you saw it. Like, once you get into the 4th inning and you kind of start getting your high leverage guys their 1 inning of work, like it goes really smoothly. You know, what they don't have is a midweek guy that can just get you started.
5 1/3, right? Something like that.
You don't even getting through the 3rd would be fine. I mean, you take 3.
He's not lying.
Even if you look on Sundays, that last Sunday was the first time they'd had a starter go 5 innings on a Sunday. Like that's kind of where you're at. So, you know, next week the midweeks are K-State and Creighton, and that's a little precarious. And you know, I don't know if you do something differently. If you look at, okay, can Jalen Worthley or somebody like that give us 2 innings right out of the gates? You might have to look at that, but you know, just the you know, I get this a lot. Oh, he doesn't care about the midweeks, blah blah blah. It's the guys that they had hoped would be that starter in the midweeks, the Ty Horns. You know, Crystal's been on the weekends, but those types of guys, it's not happening.
It's not even realistic to say that. If you think that he thought that Trot and Crystal, Clark and Timmerman, and you're going to be down, you know, they're going to give up a 7 spot. Like, He cares.
Right.
Sometimes guys just got to you got to own your part, right? Like you're not thinking those guys are giving up 7.
No.
And they were all earned.
It's, right. Well, I mean, they were very earned. And that's the problem is just the inability to avoid the crooked number early in those midweeks. I mean, I think guys like Harrahill, Tyhorn, maybe Timmerman as well, they had kind of hoped would be able to slide into one of those midweeks, and they have not been able to do that with enough consistency. I mean, they started out okay against Wichita State earlier in the season. They split the midweeks down there, but part of that was you had Walsh going in the midweeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's still, I think, some improvement to be made and some development to be done in getting more of that kind of pitching depth that can get up and down a couple times, which you have to have in those midweeks. If you don't have it, you just get exposed, and that's what you're seeing.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. All right, Bruntsy, let's switch gears to spring football. There is a spring game on Saturday. I don't know if you've heard. A lot of
I understand.
A lot of Husker fans have been talking a lot about it. DB and I were talking about, ironically enough, the DBs this morning, and it seems like a group that people have a lot of confidence in. But when you really get into position by position, are there more questions than maybe people give it credit for at first blush?
Yes,
I agree.
The two losses that I think you have to find a way to replace, and I kind of throw the caveat in there that we don't know what Deshaun Singleton's going to be in the fall because he hasn't been really doing much this spring. And I think he's going to factor heavily there.
Mm-hmm.
But that safety spot, I mean, you lose Phelan Sanford, you lose Omar Brown. Those are two guys that played a lot of good football for you last year on the back end, very reliable. How do you replace that? And, I think you have pieces that can fit in there, but I think the safety spot and kind of how you reshuffle the deck there was maybe a position battle or a question mark that maybe didn't even rise to the top of my mind. I mean, I was kind of focused on, who's going to replace Quentin Newsome? What's the guard spot going to look like this year? But, I think when you talk about just what you're having to replace in terms of production and snaps and all that other stuff, safety is a big one. Is Kobe Brett's ready to, have a bigger role there? Can Deshaun Singleton come back and be the player he was before he got hurt? I mean, those are some legitimate questions, I think, that you kind of have to ask, and we'll see kind of what they've got there. But, they've got numbers in that room. I think, having Isaac Gifford back there to kind of, control traffic and get guys in the right place helps. But that's one spot where you definitely need a little bit more depth, and you got to find that going into the fall.
Yeah, I obviously it's hit super close to home. The whole time during the recruiting process, I was just kind of chuckling. I'm like, obviously you hear numbers and they've got this guy and that guy, and I'm in my head, I'm like, well, do they? Because you're going to play 3 safeties, and it doesn't take long. And this isn't a doom and gloom segment. It's just the reality of what real depth looks like. If you're playing 3 at a time, probably if something happens to Gifford and or Singleton, right? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
People forget Phelan Sanford played multiple spots in that secondary, right? Like you get inexperienced and thin in a hurry. And I haven't even gotten a corner, right? Like, there's a lot that the other corner won't have played any snaps in meaningful games at Nebraska.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a big question mark. And the thing about safety too, at times you've the past you've had to move like Quentin Newsome over there. You've had Malcolm Hartzog's kind of done a little bit of everything.
It's a hard spot to play. It is very demanding.
Yeah. And I like you said, I mean, you got to find 3 of them, and even if you look at the 2 deep from last year, I did this pre-spring. I mean, it's pretty glaring what you're having to replace at that spot. And, even the guys that were on the 2 deep last year, it's kind of like, well, you kind of saw little pieces here and there from them, but they really haven't had to be counted on either. So that'll be that warrants watching. I think going into Saturday with kind of how that picture looks.
I'll give you a guy to look at back there that you're gonna check your program guide. Ready? Cooper Wilson,
the kid from Washington.
Yep.
He was a camp find for him.
Yep. Like that's a guy, like, I think he kind of knows what he's doing. He's young and green and super inexperienced, but people are gonna like, who's 38? And I'm not projecting performance, but I think he's gonna get a lot of snaps on Saturday, and people are gonna be checking their programs.
Okay, that's a good pull.
I got you.
And would not have been one that I would not have been front of mind. So yeah,
That's what I'm here for, Bruntz, me and you.
Okay.
Bruntz,
okay. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Let me ask you if you remember something here. Coach Cooper, I don't know, whenever the last time we talked to him, it was probably a few weeks ago when he was doing a presser, mentioned, and it was kind of in conjunction with an answer about Malcolm Hartzog, about how he'd been focusing on his position as a safety this year as opposed to moving back and forth. But then in the same breath talked about how he was interested in positional versatility with basically everyone else, trying to make sure they knew multiple spots, the way DB was talking about with Phelan Sanford last year. Mm-hmm. Are you interested to see kind of where some of these guys end up? Because I get the sense, and maybe I'm putting too much into maybe a throwaway line that he put out there, but I get the sense that maybe the places where these guys end up is a lot more fluid than some of us are willing to wrap our minds around.
Completely agree.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I think Damon, you probably know this better than me. I mean, it feels like they recruit with that in mind. I mean, the guys that were already on the roster too, left over from the Frost staff. I mean, Travis Fisher recruited that way too, where it was like a guy that had gone his entire high school career as a safety was all of a sudden a corner at Nebraska because they kind of saw him a little bit differently. And it's smart. I mean, if you've got to, find 5 defensive backs, you're probably going to have to lean on that, or a guy's going to have to play in a position that's maybe not as natural or most comfortable position. So in my little pea brain, it makes sense to kind of, cross-train guys and get guys comfortable at different spots. I mean, I think they do have guys that you'd feel okay about going out there and putting on the edge and having to cover one-on-one. Safety is a little bit of a different animal maybe, though, just with what you're asked to do and the run support piece of it. But I don't know. I mean, my sense is, though, is that, Nebraska's cornerbacks, I think, are pretty willing to get up there and stick their nose in run support when they have to. But I'll go with the premise of the question. I mean, I don't think things are necessarily settled back there. And I mean, you guys know how this staff works. If a guy can help them in a certain spot that's not where they're at now, they're not going to be afraid to move them.
Yeah, and in a hurry too. Let me ask, Bruntz, have you prepared yourself for what you think the spring game is going to look like? Are you expecting to see, explosive plays, or will it be kind of putting along? Is it clouds of dust? Do you have an image in your head? Because oftentimes what our takeaways are what we thought going in. What do you think going in?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty vanilla. I don't think that it's going to be. I don't think they're going to show a ton. I think they're going to rotate the quarterbacks a fair amount through the different groups. I'm expecting, though, it's almost like a round of golf where it's the day is pretty unspectacular, but you're going to have 2 or 3 shots that are really going to stand out at the end of the round. And I think that's maybe what I'm expecting is, it's going to be a lot of run game. It's going to be pretty vanilla in the passing game, but you're going to have 1 or 2 plays that are going to kind of have people buzzing at the end of it. And I say that just because there's going to be so much focus on the quarterback anyways, that anything they do that's kind of like explosive is going to be magnified because people are going to be looking for that anyways.
Is there a guy you're looking for them to prove that you've heard about all spring? You're like, oh, okay, I want to see blank because he's been coming up.
Well, I want to see if Jalen Lloyd is a guy that's more than just send him on a route straight down the field.
Yeah.
Like I want to see a little bit more of a complete, kind of well-rounded game to him. And I from what we've heard, I think that's happening. We'll see if that shows itself, I guess, or is able to show itself on Saturday. But I'm expecting a couple of those deep shots where they hit on them and people kind of go crazy about it. I mean, I don't know that, it's. I don't think I'm going to see anything on Saturday that's going to, really kind of change my view on what things are going to be in the fall. But, if you hit a couple deep shots, get a few explosive plays in the passing game, I'll be okay with that. I mean, that would be okay going into the offseason. That'd get people buzzing a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm expecting.
Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Great stuff as always, Bruntsy. We'll talk to you again next week. Enjoy the spring game.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
That's Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7.
Let's pick that up.
Which part?
Because I'm curious to see what you think.
The guy?
Proof of something.
Oh, I've got a name. I almost said it out loud and then cut off Bruntsy, but I was like, oh, he's not interviewing me. Because I don't know if you know this, I got my hand slapped last week by one of the guests to, not answer questions even when they ask.
Oh, verse.
So we'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln for this third hour. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we're live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage, which you can be here, not on the stage, but you can come see the stage tomorrow night at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill in La Vista for Team Jack Live. Got Amir Abdullah, Kenny Bell. I always want to say Kenny Hill, that weird random quarterback from A&M, and I don't know why.
Yeah, he was supposed to be a stud.
Yeah,
He started throwing it to the other team.
Started calling him Kenny Trill.
Kenny
Kenny Bell. He will be here along with Nathan Gary for Team Jack Live. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. The event starts. Make sure you go to eventbrite.com, search for Team Jack to RSVP to the event. We're almost out of spots, so make sure you get in here. Going to be a great event. All proceeds go to Team Jack Foundation, or if you can't make it, go to teamjackfoundation.org to get involved.
You know what you're getting. So you kind of know what you're getting with KB, right? We've had him on. We've talked to him.
Yeah.
What I don't think people know what they're getting is with Nate Gary.
Oh, okay.
So the other day,
because I certainly don't. I've never talked to him.
Nathaniel Gary.
Yeah.
Was in black joggers.
Okay.
A black tank top.
Okay.
The tank top was tucked in.
Okay.
A black snow hat, like
a stocking cap.
Yep.
Okay.
So he's got all this hair under, like, just free flowing, and he's barefoot lifting in the weight room.
I'm not a barefoot lifter guy. I don't like that,
bro. This dude,
like, he can beat me up, so he can do whatever he wants. But
he's nuts.
Yeah.
And I laugh my head off I told him, I said, you're the funniest, unintentionally funny guy just because you're snark.
Yeah.
He said, oh no, I know I'm funny.
See, now I like him. I like him.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
And he's so authentic.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, ooh, I don't know if you can say that out loud, but I sure do love you.
He
is fantastic.
It's kind of funny because we went through this team building exercise yesterday.
Yeah.
Where our guy Mike Sauter had read this book, and it was helpful to him, so we wanted to walk through it with some.
I got to get my email set up because I feel I feel like I should be doing that stuff.
Yeah, probably. This is team building. I don't know how much I'm building up. I might be tearing down a little more than I build up, but no. So and one of my core values, one of the things I care about the most in people is authenticity, and about myself, right? That's kind of like a fine line, though, because a lot of people, you know how I say people use the term family to excuse toxic behavior?
Yeah.
People use the term authenticity to excuse them being an a-hole, right?
They can.
And so, I'm not you have to be careful. It's like, oh, man, not saying that that's Nathan Gary because I don't know him, but a lot of people are like, oh, man, he's so authentic. It's like, no, he's just a D-bag. That doesn't mean, and usually, you know what's funny is usually that's not authenticity. That's them covering up for an insecurity. My guy Dion.
He's a great dude.
Right? Dion's not authentic.
I feel like he's not your guy.
I'm using a little you said you like snarkiness, so I was trying to weave a little bit of that in there. Like this dude is doubling and tripling down on the arrogance because he's got to look at that room and be like, I don't have a 2 deep.
Yeah. Well, let's just hope it stays chaotic through week 2.
Listen. I have a pretty good feeling it will.
Well,
because you know why I feel that though, right? Because he already told me good players don't go into the portal. So how's he going to get good players out? Like he told me, there's no starters in the portal, right?
Yeah, basically.
So, I mean, in as many words, he's like, oh, there's no starters in the portal.
So, look, can I ask you something else? Speaking of which, with McLean in the portal and
John McLean, like Die Hard,
Cormain.
No.
Oh, Cormain. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Are you so the whole DB talk? I didn't feel like you're overly optimistic.
So I'm less optimistic than I think the general population.
How many
Is that
guys?
fair?
Yeah, probably. Well, there's just so many it's fine. Like I'm not gonna keep banging that drum. But let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
If you're Nebraska, and let's say, because I wouldn't bat an eye if they played like, let's say, if it's UTEP and it's the third quarter, second quarter, in the second before half, it wouldn't surprise me if Nebraska played low 20s in terms of number of players. I just told somebody this the other day.
I think that's right. I think it was probably me. But that's okay.
How many DBs in your head do you think Nebraska has to have ready to see game action?
Has to have ready or will have actually played by that point?
No, just if they play that many guys.
Minimum, I think you have to have 10. Is that low?
10, 11, 12.
See, I say 8. I say 8.
So my math is simple, and you obviously know more about rotations here than I do.
I'm just going by the number of guys in the secondary.
Yeah, so I'm saying you're playing 5 guys at all times in the secondary. I figure I want to have 2 at each spot.
I don't know if it's realistic.
10. I don't know if it's realistic, but that's how many I would want.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So I'm processing this out loud.
Yeah.
Do you get the sense? I keep hearing these crazy numbers and depth and this, that, and the other, and bodies, right?
There's a lot of bodies.
You think they have 8 guys that they feel like they could play?
Today, no.
That's what I'm saying.
They have options, not answers.
That's what I'm saying. Like it is.
Now I will say,
and 8 may be low.
I think it is low. I wouldn't feel. And again, I'm not a defensive back coach. I've never coached football, so I don't know.
Well, I just assume. So this is my math. Let's say they play 21 guys.
So you want at least one guy that can play corner.
This is how I did it backwards.
Okay, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
21 guys, 21 different guys play. I think you'll have of the front 3.5/4. Like if they get into some of that,
you're gonna play 8 linemen. I think
you're gonna play 8.
Yeah,
and I'm including the jack.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so you have 3 linebackers. You'll have a nickel guy, maybe a big will guy. So I think of the 3 linebackers, you'll play 5.
Yeah, that's where I was at.
Okay, so that's 13.
And then you have 5 starters at
makes
defensive back,
18.
which are at 18.
So if you get to 21, that's 3 more. So 5 plus 3 gave me my number 8.
Yeah, and I would not be comfortable with that number.
You think it?
Like
so you think that they could play
23
guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So you
and that's a huge number. I get it.
Listen, you better get cracking it. Well, it's not if you look at it second line. I think we're spot on with front 4 or front 3/jack 4 and linebackers.
Yeah.
I think those numbers are accurate. I don't think you're stretching that.
I think it's got to be at least 9 in the secondary.
That's how many guys you got to get ready.
Yeah, 100%. If you don't have 10 guys ready, I don't feel good about it. Now
that's how many guys you have to get ready.
You can probably get away with a little bit early because of positional versatility. The way we're talking
like if
about.
you cross train.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that gives you a little bit of leeway, but then you're counting on some health luck. You're counting on guys playing as well as you need them to play. Like you're not giving yourself a lot of wiggle room.
My point in this mental exercise is it's not like people think.
There's more questions there's more options than answers.
And
That's
it's not even good players versus bad players. I'm just saying you need those numbers and they're young.
Really young.
Yeah. Like you need those numbers.
They're incredibly young back there.
So it's like
incredibly young.
And that's if nobody moves. Like, what if they've already moved a couple of guys? There's a 99.99% chance that guys have already moved.
Yeah, some of the young guys. There's like, we like you better over here, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think, again, options versus answers. I think people look at the defensive backs and say, oh, lots of answers. I look at it and I go, oh, lots of options. That means there's still questions that we got to have answers to. We're not going to have them by Saturday.
Like, what if something happens to Bly Hill?
Yeah, then you better.
You're playing a freshman.
You better hope to God that Jeremiah Charles is healthy and who you think he is.
You're playing a first-year player.
100%.
So, I mean, it's like
100%.
Even with – wow, I sounded a lot like Tony White there. That's weird.
Gosh, he's so good.
There is – even if Bly Hill's healthy, you are playing a guy at that spot who's never played FBS football, no matter what. Like, that guy might be awesome. That's a position you can generally play early, but you feel great about that? The way people talk about the defensive backs, I think people feel really good about that spot, and maybe it's because they trust Coach Cooper so much. But when you get into it, there's more questions than answers right now.
Yeah, Ethan Nation got some burn last year.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
And probably would have gotten more, but I think he was banged up at some point. They liked him.
So, like, you would expect increase
for him?
Yeah, like
you would think. But again, development's not linear, so we don't know.
That's what makes this a hard job.
It is.
Right? Like, oh, man, he played last year. He's ready to play this. So that's not always the same for everybody.
Who's another guy like that?
Jaden Doss.
Yeah. Jinx. You owe me a Coke. Just kidding. I don't drink Coke.
Me neither. My mom does, though.
I'm a diet guy. Diet Coke.
She's not drinking that.
That's all right. It's that type 1 diabetes, as people like to say. Don't try and get that extra sugar. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll wrap up the show next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. Live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube on the Pillar Exterior Stage. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. And might have to make a little trip out to Warhorse Sportsbook. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. But either way, you got to go to the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. There's a casino in Lincoln, or you can place them at the kiosks at Horseman's Park in Omaha, and you can place bets on nearly every major sporting event. I'm kind of, I heard Brian Edwards earlier, kind of like some of those NBA lines he's talking about.
Yeah.
Not sure I'm sold on that Mavs under, but I do think 76ers maybe bounce back on that -5. I don't know.
Seems like it would be too easy.
I think it is, and the number's getting low enough that I don't love it anymore, but either way, I'm here in town today, so probably heading over to Horseman's Park. But Saturday, I'm going to be in Lincoln for the spring game.
You like the new setup out there?
Horseman's Park? Yeah, it's nice. I like it. It's
I haven't been there.
They do a good job of directing you to where you need to go to be able to place your sports bets, which I appreciate. Just follow the signs. You'll get right there. There's big things coming for Warhorse Sportsbook. If you need details, house rules, the whole thing, warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory.
I was talking to Bruntz earlier, and you wanted to get back to something, and you piqued my curiosity now.
Yeah.
I basically asked Michael Bruntz of 24/7 Sports,
our guy,
very accomplished. How about all the bullets he checked off? We went draft, team needs, NFL. We talked Major League Baseball, bullpens, Paul Skeens, college baseball, then back over to Nebraska football.
He's a versatile guy.
Team Bruntz. I said, hey, is there a guy you want to see based on what you've heard all spring?
The guy I've been most
Wait,
curious.
and I can't even remember who he said. Lloyd.
Yeah,
He said Jalen Lloyd.
To see if he's more than just the burner.
I think it's just because he wants to make fun of me because he knows I'm all in on Lloyd. So if he has a subpar day, he's going to be like, yeah, DB, West Side Homer.
Yeah, and I'll be like, hey, spring game, all right? What's it mean?
That's
totally on me.
The guy that, and this shouldn't come as a surprise because he's gotten some burn here in the last couple of weeks, especially. I bet you can guess who it is.
Offense or defense, or do you not want to give it away?
I don't want to give it away. I think it's too easy.
Nair.
Shavers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's the guy I want to see.
So I'm not going to spill the tea.
Yeah.
I think that's what people say.
Spill the tea. I don't know. There's tea involved.
But it's the funny thing about Shavers is he plays a very difficult position, and he's playing it early with other good players.
Yeah. and
And-
people unpromptedly keep talking.
So
about
it's
him.
not. So for me, anyway, it's not so much that anything physical. It's just that he knows what he's doing. And
he seems like one of those guys. We were talking about this yesterday, right? He seems like one of those guys that shows up every day.
Yep. And he's amazing in the building.
Mm-hmm.
People kind of they're kind of drawn to his person. He's a no thank you. Yes, ma'am. What do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Like he says good morning.
Yeah.
Like I know that's like, oh, no big deal. You can't even get adults to say good morning.
Little things.
Good
Little
morning,
things.
Damon.
You say it every day, and I think that's cool, right? Hey,
Yeah.
every day you say that.
Yeah.
I think it's cool the first 3 times, and he says it like 4 more, and I'm like,
I just he just carries himself like
Love you, Shane.
like an adult.
Hey, by the way, spill the tea, inside information, or gossip. Is that?
Yeah, I guess that's what it means. But
yeah, but I don't know where it came
I don't know
from.
where it came from.
I don't know where it came from. Yeah.
So I think,
but Shavers has gotten some burn in the spring.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know, but you know who's kind of? There's a couple of guys I think that have been interesting, almost by their absence.
Who?
Haven't heard much about Mazuka.
True.
Yeah.
Well, not the offensive lineman Mazuka. We got a little bit of talk about.
Yeah,
his brother. In the running back room.
Oh yeah, a little shifty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got a little bit of love the other day.
Hey, he can scoot now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mazuka's.
I like Ives.
Mazuka's been noticeably not talked about. Who was the other one?
I want to see what people. I'm just excited for the game because I want everybody to have the same talking
Information
points
that you have.
Just to say, no, I said what I meant. The same talking points.
Sure.
Because some people are going to have to put their, your opinions out there as opposed to just,
speculating.
So that's what I like.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, what do you think of Grant Bricks? I know what you've been telling people. Hey, what do you think of Knack? What do you think of?
I'd be surprised if Grant Bricks plays this year.
Me too.
He's a freshman offensive lineman.
But I just use that as an example.
No, I know. But I've heard people say that though.
Or Charles. Or
I am interested to see Charles if he's healthy. I know he's a little banged up, so I don't know how much or if he's going to play.
But
if he does, that's a guy I'm interested in.
I would think Corey Barney would come up more.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of guys I think. You know how you have bid steal. You know how you have bid stealers.
Yeah.
In basketball.
Yeah.
Do you know who's a position stealer?
Who?
Because of his versatility.
Who?
Janarian Bonner.
I liked Bonner last year a lot, and I was a little bummed that he didn't get more burn.
He's a position stealer.
Yeah.
Can do
really versatile.
A lot of different things.
I really I would love it if Bonner was good because he was a guy, especially in Satterfield's offense.
He looks significantly different than he did a year ago.
He lean out.
Yeah, because
he moved back to wide receiver,
and they just couldn't keep him at 2. Some guys just aren't made for that.
Yeah, some guys don't carry weight as well. They can't move as well at higher
it's
weights.
Like
that's what like Gabe Urban. I know he's not playing, but he's a guy that's going to be interesting to me because he carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, I couldn't. He looks great for like posing,
like a bodybuilder.
It would. I don't think I could run like that.
But some guys can.
But then I look at a guy like Malcolm Hartzog, who is about as barrel chested and muscly.
Tommy Hill's kind of that way. Like Tommy Hill's. I wouldn't look at Tommy Hill and be like corner.
You're one that is so. I told people Tommy Hill weighs 205 pounds.
I would never look at Tommy Hill and be like cornerback. Not in a million years.
He is a well-built dude.
But he's put on in the last 2 years, basically almost 20 pounds.
Well, I have. You want the real numbers?
Yeah, sure.
So, I think I can say this.
Well, you can say anything once.
So he's put on since the season 13 pounds of muscle mass.
Yeah,
of real muscle mass,
and that is
when you're talking about a guy that doesn't have a ton of. When you're under the 6-7% body fat range, and I'm talking like DEXA, right? Like legit.
Yeah, we're not using calipers over here.
Yeah, 4%. That's a lie.
No, you're not. No.
His ability to carry weight is just allowed him to do things at a high level for more extended periods of time.
And being able to put on that much muscle and not sacrifice any of your movement is really hard to do.
Yeah.
If that's something that this staff can do consistently, then everybody else is in trouble.
And when you're hiring them, people away from
Everybody.
other good programs. Like if you get somebody from Bama or you know, spent time in the SEC or other successful programs at said school, and you think they're pretty good and you bring them in, let them do their job, right?
Yes.
So
we talked about the other day, hire the experts and trust them.
Well, that's kind of his hidden talent. Even as a guy that comes across as being very hard on his staff, he does allow you to do your job. And if you're Kristen or Corey Campbell or some of these guys,
there's a difference between being hard on people and micromanaging, right?
Yeah.
Having high standards is one thing. Most people will live with a boss that has high standards. They won't live with a boss that micromanages.
like I wish I could spend. I mean, if I could afford it, I would hire her full time. But I would listen to everything Kristen says, and it's not because they're nutritionists. It's not because. You know, the 4 supplements they take are the ones that I have in the house.
Yeah.
She said I could get rid of one because it's extra. I'm not going to say what it was for all the consumers of it out there.
Yeah.
But there's like the main 4. And I was like, I looked over at Caleb. I was like, see, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, or the way to eat or scheduled times or I'm like, just if people could just do what they're told. Right. Because in the strength and conditioning program, Corey Campbell is
I would love to spend.
They're amazing at what they do. Just listen.
I would love to just shadow Corey Campbell.
He's unbelievable.
Because that's like a thing I really care about and I really like.
The stat, like.
But I would love to just shadow him.
Just listen. It's a proven commodity. It isn't just because, like, their data, it works. And they'll take it back X amount of years. Just don't be hard-headed. Like, the dietary program, the caloric intake, the saliva test, the hydration, just listen. It's not.
Do what you're told.
That's all.
Do what you're told.
It's like
everybody that's the hardest thing for people to remember sometimes. And it's weird because it sounds really stupid simple, right? It's like, hey, if you want to be better with money, make a budget, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's really simple, but not a lot of people do it. Okay. Everybody if you're at a program, everybody in that program basically wants the same 2 things: to win games and to get players to the next level.
And they just accrue so much data from successful things. And then there's the practical application of where it works here. Like should a nutritionist have 6 or 7 staff? Not normally, but if she wanted 10, she could have 10. Like, that's the beauty of getting experts in their field.
Well, and trusting those experts, right? You can get all the experts you want. If you don't trust them, doesn't matter, right? You could have me in there. If you don't trust them, doesn't matter who it is, right? But my point is, like, if you've got two things everybody's on the same page on: win games, get to the next level, and the people that are in charge have a track record of doing those 2 things, then why would you not just do what you're told?
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, why not just do what you're told? Because guess who has a track record of it, and guess who doesn't?
Yeah.
Right?
You go back to the why
would you just listen to me?
Why would you fight me? Like, why are you mad at me?
I'm team you.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
We'll see how it lends itself.
That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We will be back tomorrow. Last show before the spring game, everybody. We're excited. There's Nebraska football this weekend, but tomorrow there's more Hurrdat Sports Radio here, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, FOR in Lincoln.